Hey, welcome, jerks. Mike Crawford. Another episode tonight. Saturday night. Couple minutes late because of me. I'm dealing. I'm not dealing. I'm taking care of an extra dog tonight, and the dog's a little distressed because Mama's not home. Mama's his like go to, the one he knows the best. A dog who's visiting. We take care of dogs, so just I'm settling them in, and I'm watching in the green room. Attorney Bederow with his dog, who is not distressed, who is a lap dog. Lots of fun. We're going to bring them up in a second. I just want to make a couple quick announcements, and then we'll bring up the guest tonight. One is that we're doing based off Mazza Media raised a bunch of money with his 10 for 10 challenge. So we're doing a 20 for 20 challenge. I made a couple donations today, one to the free Karen Reed freekarenreed.net website, Karen Reed Defense Fund. I made $20 donation today. I also made a $20 donation at Z Dispatcher on Venmo. She is the dispatcher that got some criminal charges for revealing some license plate information. She lost her job and she's looking at criminal charges. She's a mom. And I support her. I don't want to see her charged for what she did, and hope people step up tonight and support Karen Reed and Janelle, the dispatcher at Z Dispatcher. I'm going to put the links in the chat later. You also can find them on our Twitter and our Facebook. You can find those links there. So in the contest, I'm going to even make it a contest. We have one left, one T-shirt left. We made a few runs of these. I may make some more, but this one's not even, see, it's kind of faded. This is actually the one I'm not giving away. This is the small one. This is actually the last one. It's a defective one, but I have one upstairs. It's a double XL. It's the Last Young Jerks T-shirt of those run, printed up by a famous local musician, Dave Tree. So the last one tonight, we're going to raffle it off based on anyone who sends me the email at mjcboston1@yahoo.com with a screenshot of making $20 donation to either the Karen Reed Defense Fund tonight or Z Dispatcher on Venmo. And if you make both, you'll get 2 entries. Okay, so that's how that's going to work out tonight, if anyone does. Now, the second thing I want to mention, last night we had a great show. We talked about Lucky a lot. Got some feedback from Rita Lombardi. She had talked to Lucky today, and Lucky definitely appreciates all the support. However, some people have brought up some personal information online about his wife. His wife had passed away recently. Please don't post about his wife. He doesn't want to look at that stuff. Just give him his privacy, his family privacy, please. So that's it tonight. Those are the 2 programming notes. Let's get to the guest. We got Mazza Media, who inspired me to do this 20 for 20 challenge tonight. What's up, Mazza?
Hey, how you doing? That's a great challenge. I love the idea, and I think it's great because you start off by making a donation yourself, and then you kind of challenge everyone to match that. And what was really cool about the challenge I ran last Sunday was actually people had actually some had actually donated more. So we had one person donate about 50, another $100, and the biggest donation we had in that challenge was actually an individual donated $150. So it's amazing, amazing way to kind of inspire just donating, giving to Karen's fund. And it's extremely important this weekend for Mike's challenge to just donate money to these funds. Karen's spending a lot of money on her attorney fees. And even though that fund has raised a lot of money, a lot of that money's already been spent. It's good to kind of keep that flowing for her because there's going to be a lot of money needed to kind of cover that and help Karen out. So Karen's factually innocent. We love her. Her and her family have been absolutely incredible individuals, and I absolutely encourage everybody to do that challenge. And so I was going to do a Mazda Media 10 for 10. That's canceled. I'll go ahead. I'll pledge $20 to the Young Jerks Karen Reed challenge with that all that said. So I'll put that out later tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mazza.
You're welcome.
You're the man. And we have attorney Bederow in the green room. Do you see who's got there? Do you see the green room? You don't see it, right, Mazza?
No, I don't see the green room. Nope.
No, I'm not, unless you're hosting it. That's all right. Okay. Well, there he is. He's got
There she-
Lola. Attorney Bederow has Lola in his
How are you?
hands.
She's happy I'm home.
She is very happy. Look at her. She's got her head up.
Yeah.
Oh, daddy's here.
Yeah. She's heavy though, so this is not going to last for much longer. In fact, here, say hello. Come on.
Oh, you're so
Hello,
cute,
and they
Lola.
wear.
Oh, you're a beautiful girl.
Oh, she's a heavy girl though. Okay.
I bet.
Wow. How are you?
Oh, she's still in the background. Now she's looking out the window.
Oh yeah,
beautiful.
she'll come and go. She's not going anywhere. She'll be sleeping on my feet in 30 seconds. There
Great.
she goes.
And how was your trip to Boston? You're
Good.
home now.
I'm home. Yeah. I mean, we love a parade. Who doesn't love a parade? So very interesting. Never been to one of those before, actually, in all the years that they've been doing that. First time, took my daughter. We had a great time. So a lot of fun, but good to be back home too. See the family, see the pups, back to the real world. This.
Awesome. And you saw yesterday all the court stuff. What did you think about yesterday? What was your how do you want to kick this off? Because it's Lucky or the other experts.
It doesn't matter where you go. I know it sounds like Groundhog Day, and it's very repetitive in terms of each day is worse than the last. But I think, in all fairness, yesterday was bar none the absolute worst until the ARCA guys testify Monday, which will probably be even worse. But they called the medical examiner as their final witness, which is really a bizarre thing to do, but you almost understand it now, not strategically, not logically for them bringing the case, but emotionally, you can almost understand the despair and dread for which they must have had to call a medical examiner who completely, yet again, another witness, gives testimony which is just entirely detrimental to their case because of the burden of proof and her inability to say anything persuasive to support their case. And on cross-examination, she essentially allowed for the possibility of everything the defense was alleging at the same level, if not greater, frankly, than the prosecution theory. So that's tough, obviously, for the DA. That's followed by this guy Lucky, who is the kind of witness that any party who's having to be against it will dread, because he's a witness who appears quite earnest, almost simple, but so simple that he's just frighteningly earnest. Almost, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but almost in a Forrest Gump way. It is how he came off. And I thought what was particularly devastating is that he knows the whole Albert clan. He worked for the Albert clan, if you can believe that, for almost 10 years. He likes the Alberts, but he appears to have a pretty high North Star as his moral compass and has no problem just telling the truth. And the truth, from what he told, is just devastating, because if you believe that he's driving this Franken truck or whatever it was called, and he didn't see anything on the lawn for the first two passes, well, that completely wipes away the theory that Karen Reed would have hit John O'Keefe. And then when he comes back for the third pass, which is before 6 o'clock, it's before all of that stuff, and there's a Ford Edge that's hanging out there, that's deeply disturbing. And it gets even worse when he tells you that, you never see that. That was weird. It didn't make sense. But yet, although we're trained to call in that kind of stuff, I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to upset the Alberts. And nobody interviews him. Nobody cares until the defense, who, as you've seen throughout this case, is taking the offensive. They're the ones doing an actual investigation. They locate, they find him, they interview him. And then a funny thing happens when they do. As you know, there's been an argument, not necessarily in the courtroom per se, but there's been this argument that they tried to cover Lucky, hide him, if you will, from the defense when the Proctor Goon Squad got involved in the case. So he's devastating, and they only interview him in 2023 when they realize that he potentially has the power to be harmful to their case. This is all terrible for them. And then when you get to the cross-examination of him with these so-called alleged inconsistent statements, it's just another example of the fundamental flaw in the entire prosecution case, which is if you don't believe Lucky and you want to believe the cops, well, all roads lead to Michael Proctor, the scumbag of scumbag detectives in this case, and his supervisor, Yuri, who likes to joke with him about, see you next Tuesdays, balloon knots, and all kinds of stuff, and trying to bully the medical examiner, which, as you know, didn't work. So I don't know that having Michael Proctor and Yuri be the witnesses who will somehow impeach Lucky is going to be very persuasive. So that was terrible. Then comes Dr. Russell, and another classic Lally lack of trial practice skill. Most medical experts are not lying. They may be wrong. That happens. They may have credibility issues related to what their conclusion was. They didn't review the right materials. It's the wrong field of expertise. Any number of reasons that there is a way to cross-examine an expert, but the way to cross-examine a 70-year-old distinguished, recently retired doctor is not to argue with her and essentially accuse her of lying about whether her subscription to the online Boston Globe was 6 to 12 months or 12 to 18 months, and be all indignant about it as if that's a big deal. That was just truly amateur on his part. And she's fully credentialed. She certainly gave the opinion the defense wanted her to give. And then when he tried to cross-examine her with odontology and all of that stuff, I think it wasn't very hard to figure out that the public is aware that bite mark evidence is kind of a controversial thing. If you, especially certainly true crime people who watch this kind of stuff would know that bite mark evidence linked to a specific identification to a set of teeth, human teeth, has been something that has been criticized. Convictions have been reversed, but that really has little to do with her general opinion that these are claw marks, bite marks from a canine, given that she literally wrote the book. So I don't know what he thought he was accomplishing with that. And then he decides to reemphasize or emphasize in the first instance that Chloe has a bite history. I mean, how stupid can you be to tell the jury that this dog, who is a German Shepherd, which, by the way, is a police type dog, who belonged to a police officer, may very well have been a police dog reject because it bites? I mean, that's certainly not an unreasonable thing to believe. And, for him to emphasize all of that just struck me as profoundly dumb. And his attempt to impeach her fell completely flat. All she had to do was make it plausible. Everything is plausible, reasonable. They don't have the burden of proof. And nobody seems to understand that from the DA's office or their troll squad online. And the bottom line is she made it plausible. I have a lot of expertise. These appear to me to be dog marks, whether they be bites or claws. The medical examiner could not exclude that, which is, that would have been their fallback point. Well, rely on the medical examiner. But the problem is the medical examiner literally does nothing to help the DA. Nothing. Zero. Not a single thing does she do to help the DA. She's a defense witness in a practical sense, even though called by the prosecution. And so, cross-examining her about, you didn't open the Dropbox files and see what you see. Look at her. Of course she didn't open. You think she knows what Dropbox is? No, she's a genius doctor. She's not a tech person. So that I thought fell completely flat. And then by the time you got to this Richard Green fellow, this was interesting because if the goal of the exercise again is to speak English and just put a little doubt into the possibility about the Google search, understanding the DA needs compelling proof, then it worked. And he was good. He was honest. He admitted if he made a mistake earlier, which, that's fair game for Lally to argue about, that he might have misinterpreted the search engine filling in automatically on one of the later searches as opposed to being typed in. I'm not sure why that matters, frankly, in terms of what it relates to when he said that there were separate windows open for the 227 search. He talked about the specific timestamp. He talked about the user patterns in history and all of that. And I think that the most interesting thing about Green was he was the only expert of the three regarding the phones who had the full body of evidence before him, as opposed to the other two. And then if this wasn't bad enough, and I'm kind of surprised this didn't get more attention. Maybe they're holding it for summation. Maybe people got put to sleep by Lally. I don't know. But on cross-examination, what I heard when I was driving home this morning listening to it was this throwaway comment that in April of 2022, when he was examining Mr. Green about Karen Reed's cell phone, specifically location services, which Lally has been implying without any direct evidence that Karen Reed must have shut off in this dastardly plot to cover her tracks, that in April of 2022, which by my math is about 3 months because it's late January, after the phone was in the exclusive custody of the Massachusetts State Police. In particular, Proctor is the goon going through the phone, haven't found any nudes yet. That guy, this witness said that there was evidence that location services data was deleted in April of 2022. And I'm at a loss as to how that is not a holy shit moment. Now, he didn't say that it related to the relevant time period because he wasn't asked. Maybe he doesn't know. I don't know. But when the jury is told in summation, as I have no doubt they will, that somehow, some way, the phone that was being safeguarded by the very credible, honest, and non-framing this defendant, state police, somehow deleted location services data from the defendant's cell phone, on top of everything else about them, it couldn't be worse. And it's just a lead in to the ARCA boys who are just going to come in and drop the doomsday device. And as we said, vaporize whatever's left, which is not much. I mean, they're basically nuking a pile of rubble and making the rubble go up and come down. But so in my view, it was the worst day they've had yet, bar none. It was just the ME alone is reasonable doubt. Lucky alone is reasonable doubt. Green alone is reasonable doubt. Dr. Russell is pretty damn close to alone reasonable doubt. And all Lally could do was kind of bitch and moan and whine and really sound desperate and unprofessional with the wrong type of witness. There are times you can go after a witness, but when you cross-examine, and he should know this, but apparently he doesn't, you have to make a command decision before you start. Is this witness a liar? Are they mistaken? Do they not have the right data? And that kind of ought to control your demeanor, right? If you think somebody's lying, then I think the righteous indignation can be appropriate. But does anybody think Dr. Russell was lying? I mean, this guy just does not know how to read the room, and he screwed up with all of these witnesses. And, for for the 20th time, it feels like the case is over again.
You know, it's amazing that that's what he would go after Dr. Russell. Was it Dr. Russell that he went? Yeah, for the Globe, for the Boston Globe. Like, how long is was it 18 months or 12 months? You're not being on, like, who the hell knows? Like,
Let me tell you
you think
something.
anyone remembers that shit or even understands what they're offering half the time? I think
And
people
if
on
you're-
the jury
if
are
you're-
like, I have no idea what I have.
But I'll tell you something else. If you're going to make that decision and go down that rabbit hole, which I wouldn't, but if you're going to do that, don't you think you ought to come armed for battle rather than just flailing around? And when she says no, and your response is, "Oh yeah, you did," and she says, "No, I didn't," and he's like, "Oh yeah, you did." You know what? Subpoena the information if you're going to do this, or get a copy of the transcript. Did you testify to this? No. Any lawyer in the real world who cross-examines a witness about a prior inconsistent sworn statement during a trial or a pretrial hearing would have the transcript, or at least have a verbatim description written down and say, isn't it a fact on, 3 days ago, June, whatever, that you were asked the following question, how long did you have the Boston Globe subscription, and gave the following answer, 12 to 18 months. Did you not say that? And, she might at that point say, well, I guess I did. I forgot. I was wrong. It's a stupid point anyway. It's collateral. It's meaningless. But if you're going to do it, don't you think
Right.
you might actually try to prove your point so you look like less of an asshole than you do by doing it the way you did it, and implying to the jury that I really don't know. I'm just out here flailing around, throwing bombs for the sake of throwing bombs.
Just being a dick to be a dick.
Yeah, that's how it came off.
Now, a couple comments came in. One, they want to see a shirt. Is that a Kowloon shirt on tonight?
It is. It is.
They want to see it. Yeah.
There you go.
There it is. You see his Kowloon. He's got the Kowloon shirt. So do you hit the Kowloon this weekend?
Not this trip. You know what? She wanted to go, and that's a good thing. But not this trip. We usually do, but no, not this time.
Now, did you ever know Way Loose, the other place there? Do you know about that place, Way Loose?
I like that hat. Nice. I appreciate
What do we
that.
have? Kowloon hat on? Mazza?
Oh, he's got the champion's hat and shirt. There you go.
Put him on
There
the
it is.
screen so I could see with my
No,
glasses.
There it is.
There he is.
I'm very, very loyal to Kowloon. And when I was growing up, because I'm not a North Shore guy, so that was kind of an exotic trip to go up that way.
Yeah.
Growing up, we were Lotus Flower people. Was a really good Chinese restaurant in Framingham, which closed sadly a few years ago. But that's so we're full-time Kowloon now if we're getting Chinese.
See, my grandfather was all about Way Loose, and then they closed. So now I've defected. I think he'd be okay with it.
There used to be another place my grandfather would take me to in Mattapoisett, and I forget the name of it. It was an old school, really good place, and I forget the name of it, but it was so good. If anybody remembers the place, it's probably been closed like 5, 6, 7 years, but it was so good. Anyway,
I mourn those places when they closed.
That's where I had my first legal drink at age 21 with my grandfather. Was at this Chinese restaurant in Mattapoisett.
Mattapoisett.
First legal drink. You know how it is.
Yes. Right. And Amy made a comment about our 20 for 20 challenge. She says Bederow is the FKR GOAT. They're calling you a GOAT now. You're like Tom Brady.
It's calling balls and strikes, and this one is pretty much, if you're an umpire, 95 mile an hour heat right down the middle of the plate. This is not a difficult one to call, unfortunately for Mr. Lally and his people.
I want to thank all the super chats coming in, and Bianca MMM, who was
Cafe
on
Temple. That's it. Thank you. Sorry, that's it.
Oh, yeah, she was on last night. She gifted us 10 memberships. Thank you so much, Bianca. She's great. Check out our YouTube channel. Subscribe if you haven't. We had a question from former prosecutor who's been on here with you, Shannon McMahon. She was asking about the medical examiner. She said, did the medical examiner end this case?
Well, yeah, but like for the 20th time. So it feels less bombshell only because we've already been there. But I mean, suppose you thought this was kind of a close case or a fair fight or a highly contested, interesting trial in terms of guilt or non-guilt, which I don't think it is. I think this is a slaughter. But if it was kind of a in-play trial, and their theory was that we can prove that the SUV caused John O'Keefe's caused him to die by ramming into, just like the silly trooper said, smashing into his shoulder, pirouetting, causing the taillight magically to shatter and smash his head on the curve or ground or whatever. If that was a plausible scenario, and then the medical examiner comes in and says, well, maybe, could be, but may not be. In fact, it could be from a dog. It could be from a baseball bat. It could be from a dumbbell. It could be from you name it. Then you would say, wow, that's devastating standing alone. And in fact, I mean, if you look at the medical examiner, she looked, kind of like she was kind of hostage up there and really uncomfortable. And I'm not the biggest I think body language is very important, but I don't want to read too much into it. But closing her eyes, deep thought before responding, calling this, not the typical injuries you would see with a car accident, allowing every defense theory, the oxygen that it got. I absolutely, the medical exam. I mean, how would you be satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt that these injuries were caused by a car causing John O'Keefe to get hit and smash his head, when the person who is best suited to make that conclusion, in essence, said, maybe, but maybe not. It could have been what the defense says too. And one of the things that was most effective, and the cross of the medical examiner was very good, very, very good. And I think a lot of people enjoyed seeing kind of, the third member of the team get her moment. And clearly that's going to be her signature moment of this case, because it was really good, really effective. But beyond it could have been this, it could have been that, the most effective part of the cross, I think, was what it wasn't, which was there's no bodily trauma from basically neck down, except for where they were doing chest compressions. Because I think if you put this in English for jurors, and jurors need English, they're not medical people. To this day, they probably still don't understand the difference between contusion, abrasion, laceration, ecchymosis, and you know what? Who does, right? But what they do understand is this. I was told this guy got mowed down by a car and got launched 20 to 30 feet. And he got drilled by a car so hard that I don't think you've ever heard the word polycarbonate in this trial, interestingly enough, but that the taillight fractured, shattered because he got hit so hard and all of this. And yet he had no discernible injuries on his body other than the back of his head, which the DA, interestingly enough, because they seem so desperate, has never suggested could have been the point of impact with the car. At this point, I think that would be a less laughable argument for them, that they may as well, endorse the, online loony theory that we've seen the AI videos made up where he might have gotten smashed in the back of the head. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. But to be honest with you, as ridiculous as this sounds, it makes more sense than what Trooper Paul said.
Absolutely.
So yes, the ME again, I think, ended the case, but it was already over, I think, before.
Mazza, what do you want to comment on anything here?
Yeah, just Dr. Russell. I mean, she's been awesome. She's talked about, basically, we got it before the jury now. She was allowed to be a witness for the defense, and she's gone out there and talked about the fact that, guess what? Those are dog bites. And am I glitching right now? Am I?
A little bit, but it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like hypnotized by looking at you
Okay.
right now, because I'm
Fuzzy
so
for
like
that.
used to not seeing your face, and to see your face like this. You're all
Yeah.
clean. You're a
Oh,
very
yeah.
handsome man.
Thank you
Not
very
only
much.
are
I
you
appreciate
giant,
it.
you're a good-looking man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, there. But yeah, I mean, the dog marks, I mean, the scratch marks, claw marks, that's all it is here. It's not John O'Keefe getting backed into by an SUV and taillight shattering into 10,000 pieces on the front lawn of 34 Fairview Road. It's just not a fact. It's not true at all. So that's basically what we're looking at here, is that right before the jury's probably said it themselves, that these look like animal wounds. These clearly look like animal wounds. And I don't like this image at all, glitching. I might have to get a faster internet or something. I'll check that next time around. But these wounds, I mean, since the first time I've ever seen them, I mean, a quick search on Google will show you what dog bites and dog scratches look like on a human arm. That's it. There's no dispute. Taillight is not going to cause that. And I loved how Eliza Little made it her point to say in court yesterday, could getting hit by a smooth taillight, she specifically used the word smooth. And I love that so much because it makes a point, because I talked about that recently on this show, is that if you get hit by a sharp object, it will puncture you. If you get hit by a solid object that's smooth, like say you get hit by a baseball bat, right? It's a smooth object. You get hit by that, it's not going to cause puncturing. But if the baseball bat's got spikes on it and you get hit by it, guess what? You're going to have puncture wounds all over your arm, which basically means if you're going to get hit by a taillight, by the time you get hit by that vehicle, if it was even possible at all for that taillight to shatter, the shatter effect would take place after he was already hit and after he was already knocked to the ground, meaning that taillight would have never caused those wounds at all. Even if the taillight had shattered by hitting a bone, that shatter effect would have basically occurred by the time he'd already been hit by the vehicle and knocked out of the way. The only plausible way he could have those wounds if he was attacked by an object that was sharp. I can think of two objects. I can think of dog claws and I can think of dog teeth that would make those kind of wounds, because that would be a direct puncture attack basically with a sharp object. So that's basically how it all rolls here, and there's no way they can get around that. And I was so happy Eliza made the comment that the tail light was smooth. It was not razor sharp. It was not like an electric saw with sharp points all over it. There was none of that at all. And that's basically how it goes. And that's the end of the story. There's no debate. The Commonwealth has no case. And if they can't, here's the thing. If they can't justify the taillight causing those wounds, then they absolutely have no case. You don't even need anything else. If the Commonwealth cannot justify that taillight caused that, then what the hell caused those wounds on his arm? And the only answer is a dog. And there was only one dog that I know of that was inside 34 Fairview that night. And it all makes sense in terms of being a cover-up, because that's exactly what it is. And that's all there is to it.
With a bite history, as Lally conveniently brought out in his stupid way. Were you making a subtle Stranger Things reference there in the baseball bat with spikes? Was that a Steve Harrington?
Yeah, I think it was Stranger Things 4 or whatever. They had the baseball bat with the spikes
Steve
and everything. Yeah,
running around.
Yeah, Steve Harrington.
Right. Excellent.
He makes a lot of references.
I do.
I know.
I'm a sports guy and a movie guy. That's something about me that I'm good with sports. I'm great with movies. So
my girlfriend likes the movie stuff that you do.
That's awesome.
She's a big fan of Mazza. She's like,
awesome.
I love his voice. She was asking for your picture. I'm gonna show it tonight that you're on video again tonight.
There we go.
Yeah. We got a bunch of questions here. Here's one about something that happened on another person's live show. Did I have it? Where'd it go? Hold on one second. There's so many of these. I should have kept track of this one. But basically, they're asking about this video with Dave Cullinane. Did you see this, Bazza?
Not sure. How recently did that come up?
It just came out in the last day or two.
Okay, I'm not sure if I've seen it yet.
It's basically a video. They're doing a live TikTok show, and they have a phone line. Someone called in, and they said they had an inside line with the feds, and that the feds were meeting with the judge and all, Colin and all these other people. Again, they brought him in for questioning. And the person wants to know, what do we think about that?
Not much.
Yeah.
Not how the feds work. They work in the shadows, not that way. I mean, you can't control clearly if you interview someone and they decide to reveal I went to the feds. But who met with the judge? I mean, no, that strikes me as I wouldn't give that any oxygen at all. I think it would be irresponsible. And, you know, trial's going to be over probably by the end of next week. At that point, the ball will be in their court. But I wouldn't read into that too much.
I wouldn't either, and I don't think the host did either. But it didn't, like, they posted it on like Twitter or whatever, and I saw the trolls went nuts on them. Like, how did you vet these people? And they're like, it was a live phone call. How do you think we vetted them?
I
Like,
don't know, but
it's like they don't even have a call screener. I mean, when we're doing these live shows with phone calls, we don't even have call screeners, so they don't even have that. They're not taking it serious. How can they?
In the past several days, I've heard from many retired federal and state law enforcement officers from all around the country, including some from Massachusetts, including some who were state law enforcement in Massachusetts, who all believe that this is dirty. Now, again, those are more inclined to be the kind of people who would reach out rather than some lunatic calling and screaming at you that, you know, you're just some kind of hack with whatever. But the amount of law enforcement people that I've heard of over the past several weeks at all levels, in all types of departments, in all capacity, who believe that this is a disgrace it's pretty surprising. I've never seen anything like that.
Me too. I've been getting those calls too, which I usually don't hear from, like, mostly ex-law enforcement. Let's, be very clear on that. But I'm not usually getting those calls. You know what I mean? So it's very interesting how many of them are watching. They're watching these shows, and a lot of them agree.
That's a funny comment. Chloe has a rap sheet. It's true.
She does. She got two
true.
different incidents.
That's true. Dog has a history of violence.
And they,
after the first one too, to me, it's unacceptable. Like, as an owner, you shouldn't have two incidents. There should only be ever one.
Can you imagine telling the jury that? As if you think that's helping you by demonstrating that, your opinion is somehow biased because you must have known that this dog is a bite history. So I'm going to tell the jury that this dog is a bite history.
And I also look at it as the owner has a bite history. I mean, they didn't bite, but the owner let that happen twice. So
that's true.
Who's to say it didn't happen a third time?
That's right. That's exactly right.
I'm in this business. If we find out there's a dog with a bite history or even an owner, I mean, then it's like, I'm not taking this customer unless I feel really comfortable, safe, that there's a plan, that they're dealing with it, so
yep.
It raises red flags.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep.
Another question came in, and I think this has to do, the answer to this, I think, is just because the defense is expediting everything. They've got a lot of evidence we'll never know about. The question is that if the defense recovered any type of evidence from the basement upon their investigation, what witness would they get that in through?
Well, I mean, it depends how they found it. I mean, if they found it through the efforts of a private investigator, you would call them. If you somehow found it because somebody tipped you off with a law enforcement report, you would call the hesitant law enforcement officer, against their will to do it. If it was from somebody in the house, you would call them. The reality is, and I think people just have to accept this, whether they like it or not, there isn't going to be any evidence that a crime happened in the house. There isn't going to be any evidence about the basement door. There isn't going to be any evidence about a lot of things that perhaps they have or have speculated on, but they clearly have made a command decision that less is more. They recognize that this case is essentially over and they're going to hit the high points. The risk is, did they deliver a lot on the third party culprit? Not really. I mean, they've certainly done some effective cross-examination, established some disturbing facts. For example, I think the dog bite on the arm looks like a very credible argument at this point, that in fact, I think most people would say that's probably the case. And how could that have happened? But they're not going to have, evidence of who did this and how and what, but they don't need that. And we talked about this weeks ago, the risk, and it's a small risk, but it's something you could hold against them if you wanted to, is the criticism that in this instance, we've been giving them a lot of credit for under promising and over delivering. This might be the one issue that the reverse is true. But is that going to matter in the grand scheme of the case? Not in the least.
And I think also the jury might get why they might have under-delivered on that to spare them more weeks. I mean, they've been I'm sure the jury is like, "What the hell about the 6, 7
Yeah,
weeks of
no, I
prosecution?"
agree. I don't
Right?
think it's the kind of thing that takes up a lot of brain space in the deliberation room just as much as, where is the evidence? And, the argument is that the people from the house are lying for one reason or another. And, there's certainly a pretty good faith basis to say, well, Higgins was definitely lying. Jennifer McCabe was definitely lying. Brian Albert lied about material things. Colin Albert lied about material things. Matthew McCabe lied about material things. Juliana Nagel probably did, given her kind of evolving story about the blob that became, at the end of the day, a 6'2" male lying on the near the flagpole. And don't forget the other thing, which I think will come back in summation, which is going to be very hard to explain. We're talking about Nagel and McCabe. Is Jennifer McCabe's demand to inspect the text messages of Nagel, which makes no sense at all. Zero. So the argument is that, these people are all lying. They're all covering something up. So what they're covering up has to be what happened in the house. And I still think that's a good argument. But in terms of who did what, how, what, where, then they're never going to get that. But they don't need that.
Get another question that just came in, which I really like. Mark Lally rested his case, but he just filed a notice of discovery. Can he do that after the state rested?
No, unless it's newly found evidence that, they're being honest about. In other words, similar to what the defense did with Dr. Russell. The judge is complaining about a Rule 14 violation, but you can't disclose what you don't have and don't know about, right? So they learned about Dr. Russell, I think May 17th, and the prosecution knew right away for all intents and purposes. This stuff that Lally's turning over doesn't appear to do that. It relates to witnesses who've been off the stand for some time. He had to have known about this material. And you know what? No one cares. And that's how it works in Dedham. And that's why you keep hearing the same joke about, forget it, Jake, it's Chinatown. It's just the way it is, apparently. But the righteous indignation of Lally to demand that witnesses be precluded from testifying over these terrible violations, and a couple days later he just sneaks this in, is just another example of how much is wrong in that office, and from top to bottom. But nothing's ever going to change in that office unless you sack the leader, because it rots from the head, and the head doesn't care and has been doing this for years. And until they get rid of him, nothing's going to change. And if you get rid of him, you can get rid of all the dead and dirty weight, including the Lallys of the world, if that's what the appropriate things to do.
Right.
So the problem here, again, is Morrissey. It's Lally is just a vessel for their bad acts, corruption, incompetence, whatever it is. But Morrissey is the bad guy. And if you want any change, that's where it has to start. And
I think the protests are going to get larger when Karen Reed is found not guilty.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure, because also don't forget, at that point, she personally and the lawyers will be, whipping up the crowd.
I hope so. That's what I'm hoping. I want to see Karen Reed, her whole family there. That would be amazing.
I wouldn't envy it if I were them, because, as far as defendants go, she talks a lot. Now, and from the DA perspective, you've got to be thinking, and by the way, what she says is not stupid at all.
Yeah, she's a smart lady. I hope.
I prefer,
I hope she would come on here and talk. I'll let her
No,
talk all she wants.
I would always prefer as a lawyer that the client not talk, but at least what she says is like pretty on point.
Yeah.
But
no, I'm talking about like on Tuesday night.
If she's
after the
willing,
jury has done the verdict, I hope she calls in.
If she's willing to talk now, and by the way, that's probably against the lawyer's wish, probably, but whatever. Can you imagine when the gloves come off and there's no legal jeopardy, what she's got to say?
I can't wait. I can't
I
wait.
know,
Yeah.
just
Even
as a
if it's
Hell
not
matter,
on my show. Like, obviously, I would love it on my
Oh,
show,
yeah.
but I'll be watching it every show. I don't care.
as a matter
If she goes on Coffin Daffer, I'd watch that show. Like,
as a matter of consuming media, that would just be must watch,
oh,
no matter who, what, where. Just to look.
exactly.
The scene outside that courthouse when she walks out of there not guilty, she is going to be mobbed by the press, and you know that her
And
and her attorneys are going to go off about, Karen's going to go off, just like Mark's saying. That's going to be huge stuff. And then basically at this point, the defense is now going to be the offense. And I know that the defense has been the offense throughout this case because Adam Mullally's got nothing. But at the same time, they're going to go on the offense against the Commonwealth, CPD,
Yeah.
MSP, all these people that had anything to do with John O'Keefe's death, because this is now going to be open season in terms of finding out who really killed John O'Keefe. And we do have our
And,
obvious suspects, of
and
course, but in terms of the people and the levels of the police, Commonwealth, that have covered this up, it's going to be, it's on. Get ready, because we're all going to be starting to
she
sound off
should.
more and more.
When this is over, she should, assuming it's as every reasonable person expects, an acquittal next week or thereafter, whatever it is, because, we've talked about this before. All you're going to hear in the courtroom is not guilty, but not guilty does not translate to innocence. There are people who get acquitted who a jury may very well believe did something or was in fact guilty, but they were honest to the legal process and followed the judicial instructions about reasonable doubt and were just fair in that sense. But her goal, it's pretty obvious, is going to be to establish innocence. And there's only one way to do that: public attention, media. And so, from the DA's perspective, when they kind of pack up their bag, skulk out of the courtroom and kick the dirt on the way home, it's just beginning.
It is. It's going to be Netflix and
oh my
Hulu
God,
and
there's going to be
HBO. They're going to be
documentaries
rolled
up
out
the
one after another.
wazoo. And of course, the news cycle is going to renew itself if something happens federally.
Exactly.
If there's a
That,
civil lawsuit
yeah.
filed, this has years of shelf life. So, the Morrisseys, the Lalleys, the Proctors, and all of them, this is hardly going to end for them next week. It's going to go on for years.
And the thing too, like, I want to remind people, like, I think some people are a little disappointed that the defense isn't going to put this full, 3-week defense with every piece of evidence they have. That's
No.
where all of the evidence that they have is going to come out in the Netflix
Well,
specials and the,
people-
Dateline. They're gonna present everything they have at that point to everybody.
People
So
have to understand that, as intoxicating as it sometimes can be for a lawyer to get attention and all of that, you have to check yourself, because the goal of the exercise is to walk her out with a not guilty finding. And that's the only thing in the courtroom that matters, and the rest comes later. And anytime you offer evidence or you want to do things, you potentially increase the chance it blows up in your face. You could increase exposure. So what a disciplined lawyer, or in this case lawyers, does is what they feel is required to assure a reasonable doubt verdict, and then you get the hell out of there. So if they've made the determination, which I'm sure they would never admit, this is easy for us to admit because we're just standing here like a bunch of talking heads, but they're not dumb people.
sitting down.
Listen, they're never going to tell you this, okay? And I love these lawyers. This has nothing to do with my view on the case. These guys, they're great lawyers. They are. I like watching them. I like sponging off what they do. That's what lawyers like to do. You, as I said, you steal and admire and whatever. They'll never tell you this. They know this is over. That's why their case has gone from weeks to days. Now, they're never going to tell you that.
That's right.
But trust me, they know. We're done here, okay? We called the right, and we talked, you said last week, who are the witnesses?
You named them right in order. Like we
I think you
named
did,
them.
didn't
This
you?
is how good the show has been. We named them in order how they would come.
And every
You
single
did.
one. It was,
Yeah.
I said it was going to be Lucky. It was going to be a
The
dog,
doctor.
a medical examiner, which is coming, and then the accident reconstruction people, and then they're going to get the hell out of there. And they're not going to capitulate to the loony pressure of the loons who say, oh my God, there's no third party. And my God, she must have done it. And this and that. This is all nonsense. There's so much reasonable doubt here. They're going to just dot the I's, cross the T's, and they want to go straight to summations, which also tells you they must have the same view that I have in some sense, is that there isn't going to be much of a rebuttal case, if any. Because what are they going to do? Yeah. What's the rebuttal case? Proctor again?
Yeah. It's just going to make it worse. Every time Lally speaks, it makes it worse. And the big drops on all that extra information that didn't get exposed in court comes out in Netflix. It comes out in the documentaries. It comes out on Channel 4, NBC, Boston. She's going to have every interview. They're going to get all the info. All these reporters are on it now. There's so many. Yep. It's going to be a fight on who actually gets to tell these stories first. I mean, that's what it's going to be. I'm excited for it. The crypto tax lawyer says, hello from North Carolina. Thoughts on Richard Green and Lally's attempt at impeachment? The affidavit.
I mean, amongst the things he did, I mean, look, he's not a good cross-examiner. He's maybe slightly better than I thought, but on a scale of relativity, I mean, if you threw him in a courtroom one day, where we all practice over here, and you said, watch this guy, you'd say he sucks for a lot of different reasons. But as far as with an expert who makes a mistake on a technical detail, that's important. It wasn't the biggest detail in the world. It wasn't the most artful manner of cross. It wasn't the most effective. But did he get the point out that Green acknowledged that what I said in my affidavit, with the benefit of hindsight, was not accurate on one point? Yeah, he got it out. So, golf clap to Lally. That's a good job. Does it really matter? No. But I'll tell you something else. The difference in witness preparation. Again, what did Green do? He owned it calmly, politely, and even said, I didn't mean to cause you any distress, which was just kind of comically too. But, he came off mostly as a good witness, but not a perfect witness. I mean, it's a battle of experts, but you have to define the role of each side. The DA on the cell phone stuff and the Google search, they need a knockout. They need an absolute knockout. The defense can lose on points. They don't even need to win. They could literally just be in the game. And, putting aside the people like, Grant, who was having an orgasm on Twitter about how effective the cross was. It's frightening that this dope is in law school, because it's not that big a deal.
An echo chamber. I didn't even hear about it. I haven't heard. It's just like these guys must be lost. No one's paying attention to them anymore.
Well, I mean, it was effective by Lally in the sense he told the jury that the expert was wrong on a detail. That's good for him. But if you think that was a huge game changer, it had nothing to do with the relevant search. It had nothing to do with the fundamental premise of his opinion. And of course, the other real problem is, on the scale of points that would hurt reasonable doubt, that was number 11, out of 1 of 10. So it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I think that Richard Green, the best thing that he did is underline the fact that Ian Woffin didn't use the right version of the iOS.
Absolutely.
That was huge.
Who's actually faulty?
That was huge.
I'm glad you said this, because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and the problem they had with Hyde and Whiffen, which is it's gobbledygook. They don't speak English, and it goes over the jury's head, and the only thing the jury takes from their conclusion is their opinion. No search. Okay. Then they hear Green. Now his conclusion is there was a search. So we're kind of like here. But he spoke English, and they can remember exactly what you just said. Wrong software. Oh, maybe that's not the right thing that they did. The other thing is, I had the full record. And then the other thing that Green did, which I think is going to be problematic, we talked about this a few minutes ago, is deleting location services after the phone was in the custody of the master.
That's
They really-
huge. Isn't
Yeah.
that
What a
projection again from
disaster.
them? They always project. I've noticed that from this Mass State Police and their trolls. They always project what they
Yeah.
actually do onto other
That's
people.
right.
And that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think Green did not have to be a home run. He didn't have to do anything. Maybe Mazza will appreciate, the basketball analogy in this. When you want to stay even during the non-Tatum minutes, right? You want to not give up the courthouse. You don't want to,
Right.
do a -20. You want to
Right.
stay even. In the worst case scenario for the defense, Green canceled out or at least held serve in that area with these other experts.
If
So they
not
didn't,
one. I
they
feel like
didn't
he
lose.
won, actually. If you
No,
look at the
I don't
yeah.
disagree with that.
Like by a
But
couple points. And I think that
he
iOS
didn't
thing.
need to. He just needed
Yeah,
to not literally
exactly.
screw
He
the
was
book.
even, if not up a couple points. Like
Yeah.
it's not even he didn't get destroyed at all.
The other thing that he did, which was very interesting, is he also said that part of our analysis includes user habits with the phone in history because he had the full record of McCabe's phone. The other two didn't. He talked about one of the most effective things. Again, the jury remembers this when Yannetti said from 12 a.m. until 8:50 a.m. What percentage of the calls were deleted? 100.
Yep.
That's bad.
Yep.
Now, you better believe when you have a master lawyer like Jackson, when he comes into summation, the time 8:50 is not going to be left hanging as what does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. That's right around the time Lank showed up when McCabe had the epiphany after
Gotta get rid of
huddling
that
with
shit.
her
Yeah.
Albert and McCabe buddies and said, I just remembered. She told me I might have hit him. Call the cops back. And right before the cops come, deletions across
Get
the
on
board.
the phone and start deleting.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah.
Well, that's
It's just-
one hell of a coincidence.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Exactly. Because after all, she didn't really Google search house long to die in cold at 2:27 a.m.
Yeah, so I
Like-
thought Green was fine.
We got a comment from Mazza.
Okay.
They want to know why you were hiding the handsome face for so long. I think people like looking at you, Maz.
Two reasons. Just concerned about what was going on with Turtle Boy and basically the way they were coming after everybody last December kind of made me a little bit, stay a little bit off the radar in terms of my actual presence. But basically, once I kind of started to meet people in person and everything, I kind of felt like, well, cat's out of the bag. And then I put the picture of me and Karen on. That thing got so many views. It was insane. So I said, what's the point? Why not go on webcam? Now, my camera, I couldn't get it to work for the longest time. And then this week I was on the phone with tech support, like, well, your camera's working. So I ended up putting it on my work computer and it worked right away. I'm like, well, why isn't it working on my regular computer? So I found out that my computer security system actually had a block on it. I just had to shut the block off, turn it off. And then all of a sudden, voila. So there we go.
Oh, here's a comment. My $20 for the challenge. I love MM. Good mind, good voice, a durable face. Who are they talking about? The 3Ms? I don't know what the MM. Not Michael Morrissey. Maybe
think
she
it's
talk.
us.
Yeah, it's one of us. So maybe it's all
It
of
could be
us.
Mazda Media,
Damn
perhaps.
bizarre.
Michael
Oh,
Morrissey,
yeah, that's
Mazda
what it
Media.
is. You
Yeah, it
got,
could be.
yeah,
Yeah.
they love the bat. See, everyone's loving the Mazda Media tonight. Looking at your baby, you got that clean baby boy face. You got the youth on the panel. You
Oh,
got to
yeah.
be the
Well,
youngest out of the three of us, I'm guessing.
yeah.
Yeah. It's Mazda Media.
That's right.
All the women are they like the Mazda Media. Like my girlfriend. She might leave me for Mazda. Alan Perry
Your
said,
girlfriend for now.
yeah, for now. It's only been 20 years, but then Mazda showed up.
Shit.
We're having fun. I hope people are enjoying this. We've got a lot of questions, a lot of super chats. I'm not going to stress over it. 69 of them. If I don't get your super chat up, I'm sorry. I'll try to read them later. Angel Mom said that the medical examiner opened the door for the ARCA kinetics expert to opine more broadly when she said she could not answer the question regarding how John O'Keefe's body ended up 30 feet away from the curb.
I would sure as hell make that point and say, Judge, which is it? You told me they're not qualified. It goes to the medical examiner, and the medical expert said, wrong expert. It's really somebody like this. I'd make that record for sure. And you're putting the judge, I mean, again, look, there isn't going to be an appeal in this case, but a judge can't think like that because they don't want to be embarrassed. But I would make that record and say, you should have let me do this in the first instance. You didn't. The medical examiner completely punted to somebody with the skill set of the ARCA expert. So let's go. That's their witness who's basically punting to our witness. Let's do this. And she'll say whatever she says. But you make that record, and absolutely you should do it. And I think it makes sense. I mean, experts know, we don't. And apparently the ARCA expert wanted to do it with the expertise. The medical examiner is smart enough to know that that's not my area of expertise. So as a matter of basic logic and common sense, why shouldn't the ARCA witness be able to do it? And the answer can't be, Your Honor, because it's for the defense and will hurt the prosecution. Okay. That's not a good reason to not allow it. So I think they'll make the argument. And I wouldn't be surprised if she has no choice.
Hot Drop City over here. Colleen, we got another woman weighing on. She's like Bederow. She's like, Mrs. Bederow is a lucky lady. Mark is brilliant, and those dimples are adorable. Let's see those dimples, Mr. Bederow. I love it.
He's going out.
Well, like he's going.
He's gone old school mass media there. So.
He's blushing now.
Well, this is out of, I guess, a different kind of embarrassment. I'm not turning red, hacking up a lung in a courtroom embarrassment.
Here's another one.
Or thrown up during the Celtics victory parade like Sam Hauser.
There you go.
Oh my God, he was wasted.
Oh yeah.
Did you see Psycho Missoula get off the boat and just start high-fiving? I wish that was near us in the parade route. That wasn't near us. I mean, he's like,
he didn't swim, did he?
Missoula didn't swim, but he's gone like full psycho, and we love it.
Medical examiner. I think we already kind of read this one.
Same point. Yeah.
Same point. But
same analysis.
Yeah. But they want to know if it opens it up for the defense expert. I mean,
look, it should have nothing to do with whether it's a prosecution or a defense. An expert is an expert. A judge is supposed to be a referee of fairness. And if either side has an expert with the proper skill set and expertise on a relevant point, that'll help the jury understand something that the buzzword is beyond the ken of the jury, meaning it's just not within a lay person's knowledge, then she ought to allow it. The answer can't be, well, the DA witness screwed you over, Mr. Lally, so I'm not going to allow the defense to pile on. That has nothing to do with it. The difference is that the defense knows how to call the right witness with the right expertise. Lally chose to call a trooper who's a moron. That's not the defense's fault.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well,
their experts are not experts. Their experts are unqualified individuals with certifications from Clown University, most of them. So
that's exactly it. And they'll do it in a more politically correct way that we're talking about now. But I would expect them to make that point, and force her hand. And she'll say, we'll take a recess and go behind, in her chambers, roll a dice and see what comes up and issue a ruling without explanation, probably.
Now we're seeing WCVB is looking into state police accident reconstruction. They opened up a can of worms for themselves here.
No, it's a crisis beyond this case. And this is another example of Morrissey doing damage. Karen Reed is just going to be, when this is all over, a figurehead of the corruption and incompetence in Norfolk County. And, she's going to be the hero who exposed all of that. But, unfortunately, it took her being a pawn in a show trial for that to happen. But the reality is that she's going to be remembered for the person who was the defendant in the case that started this, that probably is going to, blow up the Norfolk DA's office, at least sometime soon, and completely with the the Massachusetts State Police. There's going to be a crisis there. And it's not even just, oh, get rid of Proctor because he's a scumbag and a pig. I don't mean pig as a disparaging cop. I mean pig as a disgusting human being, not slandering police. He just happens to be a police officer who is a scumbag and pig. But in a larger sense, this case is going to ruin the credibility of the state police as a investigative agency, whether they believe in, looking for nudes and illegally searching phones that they recover from defendants, because the reality is they're not experts. And the question is, how long have they been getting away with this shit? And the question is, how many people have been wrongfully convicted, and motions are coming on that as well. So it's a disaster. And I'm laughing because it's all Morrissey's fault. All of it. 100% one person's fault. His, because he could have put the kibosh on this at any time over the as recently as today, but he's not going to.
Now we got a comment from somebody I know has told us in the past they're currently employed in law enforcement. And I would like LT33. I would love you to
know who he is.
Yeah, send me a message. You've talked to him?
I'm not going to tell you his name.
I hope he sends me a message. I would like to talk to him too.
He was a police officer in the NYPD when I was a young, DA in Manhattan. I'm pretty sure I know who we're talking about. And he's a lieutenant, which is a very, very high ranking, in the police department, who knows how things work, and at some point would be an incredible resource to hear the public and you guys from a really distinguished police perspective on how to investigate, how to be professional, how to testify, how to do everything that you would want a good police officer to do, whether they're a young cop or an experienced lieutenant. And maybe at some point, not my choice, obviously, but this would be somebody you'd want to hear from to get the real police perspective of how things are done. And I think you'd be shocked out of your mind if you heard what, on-duty distinguished cops think of what's going on here.
I would love to hear from the lieutenant, on or off the record. Even if we're just talking off the record, I'll keep your, totally anonymous. Believe me, I would go to jail over it.
I'm not giving you up. It's going to be on you. You know what I'm talking about.
No, he's got to reach out. I'm not going to ask you.
No, I'm talking to the comments.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. Miss Shorty, now I think she felt pity for me. She says, Mike, you're cute too. Thank you so much, Miss Shorty. I love Miss Shorty. She got a very cute voice herself. So
it's very amorous here in the chat tonight.
Yeah, they love us. We got a lot of women that follow us.
It's summer, everybody's feeling happy and good, and that's nice.
And I think they're happy about tonight's show. Last night was kind of wild. We had the wild show last night. It was like the tonight they're back to their old usual. It's the 3Ms. They come to expect it. They love it. This is what they
got
want.
Let out last night. That's good.
Yeah, kind of wild. It was fun. I didn't know. My girlfriend and I were watching it after. Brian at one point looked like he was falling asleep. That was funny. Did you see any of it, Mazza?
Yeah, I saw quite a bit of it last night. I saw probably about 90% of it last night. Yeah, I saw Brian.
Did you think Brian was going to fall asleep at one point?
I couldn't tell, but he did look a little bit drowsy at times. So
I hope so, because I got a lot of shit from a lot of people, and it's the worst.
Because you weren't there.
When I went a couple of weeks ago, or last week, whatever it was, and I was completely conscious of you're going to fall asleep. But there were also times I did not know how wide the camera pans. I have to confess. Yeah. So there were times where I thought it was when it was looking at the witness stand or on the screen that I was kind of safe and could do a little more yawning and maybe stretch the neck and just no, because I got dragged hard by and still shotted to death with head in hands, yawning and whatnot. So for future reference, the camera's Big Brother is always watching in the courtroom, so be careful.
Yes. Only a couple more days, so hopefully people don't have to worry too much longer on that. Here's a
No, this
question
thing's coming
related to
up.
that.
This thing's ending soon.
Once the verdict is out, can the support leave the buffer zone and walk to the courthouse? I believe so,
Um,
right?
Yeah, I mean, look, the only reason that there would be a buffer zone is concern of improperly influencing the jury. So once the jury's job is done, there's no credible legal basis to further suppress the First Amendment right to free speech, which is, troubling in its own right. Now, look, I understand and I can appreciate a judge saying, I can't have a jury seeing this. That would be that would be unfair. I'm going to be fully whatever view of your case is, a jury should have no outside influence. And if they saw the amount, I mean, when you go there and you see the amount of support, it's shocking. I mean, it's overwhelming, and you can't help but feel sympathy, whatever your thoughts of the case are, towards like, why are they so invested in this? So the jury shouldn't see it. They're not seeing it. But once the jury's done, they should be able to scream as loud anywhere they want, as often as they want, and wherever they want, essentially. But the reality is, other than the court appearances, it's more likely to be in front of the state police headquarters in my hometown, by the way, which is where they're headquartered, and
So if
or the
people
DA's
were,
office.
so basically anybody that's a witness, basically at that point, once the case is over, they're no longer quote unquote witnesses.
Say whatever they want.
So if people decide to sit across the street in Canton somewhere with signs, that wouldn't be considered witness intimidation once the case is over, right?
No, I mean, in order to be technically intimidating a witness, I mean, the person
Mm,
has to be, in a legal sense, a witness. There has to be
mm,
either a pending criminal proceeding or an ongoing criminal proceeding,
mm,
or reason to believe that someone is involved in what will be a thing. But just because, Jennifer McCabe testified in a case that's over and somebody wishes to express their First Amendment right of what they think of her,
mm.
which, by the way, I don't know why people would do that, to be honest with you, but whatever. I mean, in a legal sense, if you want to walk down the street and scream that, Karen Reed was framed by these people, you can do that. What are the risks involved? The risks involved are, if they are a witness in a case, are look what happened to Aiden, right? Uh,
Mm.
not talking about the merits of the case, but look what happened. You could expose yourself to defamation if you said something that is a conclusory and, inaccurate, and potentially, depending on whether she's a public figure or not, which is interesting at this point, she may very well be, but
Don't you have to say it with some kind of malice, like you know it's wrong, but you say it
well,
anyways?
yeah, I mean, it depends on whether they're a public figure and whether there has to be, actual malice. And, it gets worse when you're a public figure because, someone in the public is disease, you kind of have to tolerate it more. If you're a private citizen, the threshold is lower. But, if she's not a public figure, or I'm just using her as an example, or anyone else, and you run around and call that, you framed someone of murder, one could argue that that is at least potentially defamatory. Now, of course, if it's true, it's not. But if it turns out to be false and malicious, if she's a public figure, then, could she have a cause of action? Maybe. But would she bring that cause of action? No way. I mean, because then you're just going to subject yourself to being questioned and whatnot. And then, of course, what are her damages anyway? She's kind of disgraced in some sense because of this case.
The comment that I think Mazza could answer for us. Thank you for your pursuit of justice. Where in Dedham do supporters gather?
Right by the Presbyterian Church, just to the right of the Norfolk County Superior Court. So there's a patch of grass across the street from the courthouse, or parallel, right next door to the courthouse, and then right next door is the you'll see the gas. Once you walk right up to the courthouse, if you walk to that, you'll look right to your right. You're going to see all the protesters gathered right there. So that will be the best location. Someone made a good point that a lot of these witnesses in this case are also witnesses in the Turtle Boy case. So that was, I think that's important. And someone noted to me to make it's good to kind of maybe note that on the show. So just want to
I
So you
don't,
could,
get that out there.
yeah, you could possibly still be charged with
Yeah,
witness intimidation if
right.
I don't,
yeah,
I don't know if there's going to be a Turtle Boy case when
yeah, exactly.
Aaron Reed case, literally
Mhm.
explodes in spectacular fashion in a week or so. I mean, first of all, so here's the huge advantage that he has that in some sense Karen Reed doesn't have, not that she needs it. So, the Turtle Boy prospective jurors are watching all of this. Okay. They're not shielded. They see everything that's going on now. So they're going to get called for jury duty, right? In the same freaking county, right? No one has made a motion to change venue, right? In that case. So literally the same courthouse, and they're all going to know who Jennifer McCabe is. They're all going to know who these people are. They're all going to
Proctor and
know
Tully. Yeah.
all of that stuff. And so what are they going to do? They're going to have,
They're going to put Proctor on the stand again.
now, and not for, and look, I know they they got rid of the empty suit who was handling that case and replaced him with a distinguished ex-judge or something, which, that's at least the right way to do it. And by all accounts, he's qualified. You have to wonder though, if you're a good lawyer with a good reputation that he has, why the hell would you want to subject yourself to this? Whatever you think. And also, do you really want to die on the hill of going after a journalist with a First Amendment type defense?
Right.
I mean, as a former judge, now you can get all indignant, make your argument that the First Amendment has limits. It doesn't give you a right to literally harass people. And that's true to some extent, depending on what it is, if they're a witness in a case. But do you really want to be the person who's taking on the First Amendment?
Right.
Because Brian Albert is a victim of being harassed? Are you kidding me? I mean, who believes that? Are you going to deal with the Proctors and the Uris and the Tullys and go to a jury pool who's already going to think that this is ridiculous? Now, I don't know. They may be thinking that, well, the allegations here are crude and this and whatnot. But then from the other side of things, if you're the McCabes and all of them, are you testifying again?
Yeah.
I mean, if
I don't even think Tully wants it. You think Tully wants to get back on the stand? He
No.
led that investigation of Turtle Boy.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not. But more importantly, like if I'm McCabe's lawyer and I'm getting paid to actually do something other than sit in a courtroom and watch, I would be telling her, what are the pros and cons here? I mean, do you want to now give more testimony that can draw attention? And, I don't know whether anyone's even going to believe a lot of it. Now, some of it, following them around with these rolling rallies, okay. I mean, there's no real factual dispute over that, right? I mean, it happened. But some of the other
the question if it was it intimidating.
Right. No.
I mean, if you look at it,
that's my point. It's a first that they're putting the First Amendment on trial. And who wants to do that? But McCabe testified to a whole nother series of allegations, which, if true, are disgusting, which may not even be true, where she said somebody was sending her, stuff.
Yeah.
You remember
where's
all that.
The receipts on any of that?
Who knows? And, I just...
that wasn't him, though. Yeah.
Right. But, I mean, I don't know if any of this just goes forward.
Yeah. I mean, some of the stuff they attribute to him, I mean, we know a couple people who got out of hand, and some of those people have harassed him, Aiden too. So I mean, it's a weird thing. Like, who's really a supporter? Of who? Like, you know what I mean? Like, some of these people just
when you are
they flip sides. Yeah.
When you are a prosecutor, okay, there are certain prosecutions that are types of prosecutions that are just the doomsday prosecution you don't want. And I'm here to tell you, number one on the list, numero uno, is going after a journalist for what they allege is journalistic activity protected under the First Amendment. That is just, you can't win, even if you get a guilty verdict. Exactly. That is just...
Especially he was right too. Like I feel like his reporting, you may not like his tactics and the language he uses and this or that, but mostly his reporting has been like right on the mark. I can't think of much in the entire coverage that doesn't come true here.
A lot of it is frighteningly accurate. And I mean, it doesn't matter whether you approve of the methods or not. The goal of a journalist is to report news that's accurate. And whether you approve or don't approve, he is a journalist who reported news that is accurate.
End of story.
That's it. Full stop.
I hope it happens.
No,
for
I
him.
didn't know that's a Framingham inside baseball. No, I did not know him.
Who is Bunky Smith?
He
He's
was
great.
a famous Framingham athletic coach and just kind of all around, kind of, like our version of a townie, I guess you guys would say. But he was
Yes.
he died, not too long ago, and it was, a very big local story, I think.
How about Lou Maloney? I heard he's from Framingham.
Yeah, I went to high school with Lou. He was 1 year above me.
Good guy or not? Be honest.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, played little league baseball and whatever, and he was head and shoulders
Above.
better than all, as you can imagine, and certainly in high school is certainly head and shoulders above. But yeah, no, I went. He's 1 year older than me in high school at Framingham State High School.
So we're answering everybody's questions tonight, as many as we can. There's a lot that we don't get to, but here we go. Here's a question. Please discuss what you know about the agency that spoke with Judge Bev on Tuesday. We just kind of addressed that. We don't know. We have no idea.
Don't know, and
No.
We
I
think
don't
it's
know,
speculation. We think that Oh, I guess Sean McDonough talked about it too. If Sean talked about it, then I have a little more confidence in it.
I still wouldn't comment. I would want to know more.
Yeah, we don't know enough. Now I'm gonna have to go listen to Sean's latest show.
Yeah, no,
we need to get Sean on here with you. Actually, I didn't want to pressure Sean because he just lost his brother, and
we had talked about doing something, and then he had his tragedy.
Yeah, we got to get him on with you.
Yeah.
I love Sean, and we'll do that.
Yeah, no, I had a nice conversation with him.
You did. Awesome. Did
Yeah,
you
no,
do
we
his show?
We were going to, and then he had his family tragedy.
Okay. Here's another question. Mark, why did defense never mention lack of blood?
Good question. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I suppose, well, let's hold on before we draw conclusions. They're calling a medical examiner, and they may be in a position to ask if the accident, or whatever we're calling this, occurred outside on the lawn. And use the DA's hypothetical. If he was killed around 12:30 or 12:45, depending on which day of the week it is in the DA's office, whatever it is, and he was out there for about 5.5 hours in that temperature, would you expect there to be more blood? And I think the answer is yes. And I saw online, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know, where people say when it's like really cold, it doesn't happen. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think the reality is, if your head gets split open and you're gushing blood and there's blood all over him, by definition, there ought to be some blood on the ground. So, and it's apparently not there, other than, what they scooped up with the Solo cups. So.
Oh, big contribution for Facts Matter, $50. Thank you so much. They had a question. They said, I'm 6 weeks new to this case. Will the jurors be fearful to go back into the Canton community if they vote not guilty, or do the citizens of Canton get it? My experience is most of the citizens of Canton get it, and I'm not sure that the jurors are from Canton. They could be from any surrounding towns in Norfolk County, and they probably are. Like, they probably aren't even Canton residents. What do you guys think?
I mean, you don't get excluded. I mean, you kind of get stuck with the jury pool you get, and it's random. So, you could get a pool where there's like 6 people on the panel from Canton, and you have to get rid of them. I don't know what happened, but I am sure that these attorneys made a special effort to put aside a number of peremptory challenges, if that's what it came to, where you can just punt anyone as long as it's not, race, gender, obviously, like, a civil rights type, get rid of them. I don't like the way they look, but for any other reason, I want them gone. You would get rid of people from Canton. I'm sure that they went out of their way to, if there was a juror from Canton, to try to get them to get kicked off for cause by indicating, oh, I know who the Alberts are, because everybody in Canton knows who they are. So I wouldn't be surprised if that they, given their almost certainly skill set in picking jurors, would have gotten rid of almost anyone from Canton. And I don't know that there is anyone on the jury from Canton, but my suspicion would be probably not.
Maz, do you have any comment?
Yeah, no, all I know is I've seen some concern where some people were concerned about the jury overall being possibly tainted by the Commonwealth, and I just don't think that's plausible at
It's not
all.
what I
It's been
saw.
heavily vetted. You had even the defense team involved in that selection process. So I've seen the jury in person. They seem like good, honest people to me. I didn't get any sense of, I wasn't sitting there looking at them constantly, but occasionally I'd glance over. You can't help but look at Adam Lally or Alan Jackson when they're on that podium and not see the jury in your line of sight, anyways. But no, I didn't think that they were anything to be concerned about. And yeah, I think I don't. I'd find it hard to believe, like you said, Mark, that anybody would be from Canton that's on that jury. Quite honestly.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know where they were from, but they looked like a very highly educated bunch, which is not something I'm used to seeing always. I mean, I don't mean that as a criticism,
Mhm,
because some of the best jurors are plain people with plain common sense, to be
mhm,
candid. But just there did appear to be a lot of kind of wonky educated types, I thought, on the jury. And now it's totally judgmental. That's based on appearance. I don't know what they do, but they seem to me to be just a highly educated crowd, which is probably not great for the prosecution given where this is going and
mhm.
what it is. And, when you have a reasonable doubt defense, I think that's probably not good for them. But are they from Canton? I have no idea.
Mhm.
Another question: can Karen sue anyone involved in all of this and get compensated for being wrongfully indicted and found not guilty? And I'm wondering if she can actually even go after people like Kevin who lie. Like there's a lot, coffin daffer. Like there's certain talking heads that have said some pretty horrible things.
So, I
What's
mean, the
up?
first thing is you don't get to sue everyone because you're found not guilty. I mean, you need more than that. I mean, it's not the fault in a generic case that a prosecutor brings a case, presumably in good faith. We'll get to that distinction in a minute. But, the law does not favor just more litigation because you're pissed off that you thought you shouldn't have been prosecuted. What's the problem here, or for the DA, I guess, or the police, is she's alleging that I was framed, that they deliberately mishandled, planted, destroyed evidence, knowing I'm innocent. So I would believe every reason to expect that there will be a lawsuit against the state police,
Yep.
Michael Proctor in his official and personal capacity, Yuri, perhaps others. I would assume that possibly some of the Canton police, Berkowitz, others could be involved. Um, do you drag in, civilians, or even like someone like Higgins is an interesting person because he was not acting in his official capacity, just happens to be law enforcement. The real tricky question is, does she have a path to drag the DAs in? And that's a much, much more difficult thing because they get qualified immunity, which is a very controversial thing that people hate. But unless you can show that the DA's office was involved in the investigative part of the case, which the courts basically define as what I would say pre-indictment, they generally get immunity. Now, there was a 4-month gap between the arrest and indictment, but if the DA was not actively investigating, then they may have a better chance at immunity. And it becomes a fact specific question, such as, did Lally go to the autopsy? If he did, that may suggest, well, he's investigating. It's pre-arrest, pre-indictment. Why is he so invested in this? Did he go to the crime scenes? I don't know. Did he interview people before? I don't know. Um, but it's going to be very hard to sue the prosecutors. It's a rare thing. Um, but there is, under 42 USC 1983, which is just the federal sue everybody for violating your civil rights who acted under color of law. The successful lawsuits that you've seen against authorities, and I know this because I've seen about 10,000 of these against the Brooklyn DA's office in New York over the years, which is, my Norfolk DA's office, used to be anyway at home, is one of the theories that they'll often use is that there's like a lack of training in the DAs. There's a lack of proper supervision. And if that somehow allows them to sue the DA for that, and in other words, this should have been caught, they should have known better and whatnot. And, you can certainly make that argument here because this has been a textbook example, a training video, but by the Norfolk DA for future use on how not to prosecute a case. So
A follow up on this, Ken. What about Morrissey's speech? Is that suable? That speech he gave, that recorded?
probably not. I mean, the stuff that he did was unethical, but you're not going to sue him and win for him being unethical. Now, when he starts calling her, guilty, his position is I'm relying upon what the police told me. And, if they were wrong, I wasn't being malicious. I was only reporting what I was told. I was acting in good faith and I didn't want them to harass witnesses. So if you're suing Morrissey, I don't think it's because of the press conference. I think it's because of everything else that happened in the office with the way this was handled, assuming they're not granted immunity. However, they ought to file a bar complaint against him for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
If I were her lawyer and if I were someone like Jackson or Yannetti, I would take great pleasure in writing that letter and complaint and signing that. And I would find the best Mont Blanc pen you could find and give it your best signature. And absolutely, they
Nice
should.
flowery signature on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. I don't know that they'll do it, but I would.
Here's one I can answer. Do the alternative jurors know in advance in Massachusetts? No, they do not. And I believe
No.
they don't even have it decided yet. They just
No.
basically do like a little lottery at the end and they decide who's going to be actual a real juror. The jurors
Which
don't
is
know.
different. In New York, you get picked and you're an alternate, which is probably not the good way to do it because, are they checking out saying, this kind of sucks, I have to sit here for nothing? So I think the Massachusetts way is actually, a much more interesting way to encourage paying attention. It's an interesting way to do it.
Here's one. Is Morrissey the only official who could pursue perjury fines or worse?
Well, I don't know what you mean by fines, but no, perjury.
Perjury charges, I guess.
It's going to be the United States Attorney for the District of Massachusetts.
The feds. The feds can do it.
Yeah. I mean, Morrissey is conflicted in everything. I mean, do you really think that he would, if it became obvious that one of these witnesses committed perjury, that he would do anything about it? Or, would you want him? How would his office prosecute a murder case when that defendant is going to have a third-party culprit named Karen Reed? Because Morrissey, you're so stupid and your office is so stupid that you went after her. You're going to make my defense. So no, they're a joke. So they're not going to do anything related to the death of John O'Keefe after this. What?
BLT wants to thank our moderators. Thank you. I want to thank them too. They said, thanks for a great chat. BLT says, thank you to our 3 moderators. They do a great job. I'm just looking through, making sure I'm not missing any questions. Do you have anything you want to? I feel like Mazza hasn't got enough time tonight. You have anything you want to drop on us right now? Mazza rant, something?
Yeah, I love Microdot's video about what Lucky Loughran would have seen when he was driving down Fairview Road. I thought that was a very, very good reenactment video, basically showing you that, you have to take into account that not only was it dark and night, but also that Frankentruck also has, like every other motor vehicle, headlights. And when you have headlights shining, it lights up the area, including not just the street, but of course the property off to the left and right of the street. So that video is really good, that basically anybody driving down that street at that time would have seen a body on that front lawn, which, basically tells you if anybody had left the party and was unaware of anything that had happened, that body wasn't there yet, obviously. But that's why Lucky's point of not seeing any body is so verified by Microdot's video, because it shows that if a body had been there when they said it had been there, that he would have driven right by it and said, oh my goodness, there's a body there. What's going on? Let me stop. In this particular case, what happened? He just drove right down the street, saw no body there because there was nothing visible. Now, the Ford Edge thing and what he had to say about the Ford Edge was absolutely incredible, because he basically said he knows the Alberts and he knows that essentially they don't ever have a vehicle parked on the street. And because there's a parking ban in Canton, as we've learned, that he didn't want to tell them to move their vehicle or report it because he knew them, and he did it as a kind of like a favor, because he's worked with the family, Chris, for a while, and knew Brian lived there. So I thought that that was really a huge statement by him, that there
That's
was a Ford
brilliant.
Edge there that's never really ever commonly there. Or maybe, I guess he thought maybe they didn't own it. I can't recall now, but at the same time, I thought his information that he gave us was extremely damning for the Commonwealth and, of course, Adam Lally. So,
I would love to hear, if anyone was in the courtroom, what the reaction of the jurors was when this guy, I mean, his testimony was devastating anyway, but when you find out that he says that there was a Ford Edge, didn't belong there, it was weird, I didn't report it, and it was right by the flagpole, which we all know what that means vis-a-vis what
mm,
may be on the lawn. That can be one of those, just light bulb goes on, put your pen down, jaw on the floor if you're a juror, and say, what in the hell is happening in Canton? Like, this
yep.
is really scary type stuff. I would love to, I mean, I would imagine the reaction to that was just jaws on the floor, because
I,
this guy comes off as, again, I hate to say it, but like, he's very Forrest Gump like,
Yeah, very
in a good way.
genuine too.
Yeah.
Like Forrest
He
Gump,
likes these
very
people,
genuine.
and he works for these people, or did work for these people, and he has no motive to do them dirty. I mean, what are they going to say? Because he doesn't deliver pizzas for Chris Albert anymore. That's a reason for him to accuse them of something. And the reality is, the defense investigator spoke to him pretty fast. So this is not like a news
mm,
story that came to light after. He
right.
told the story right away, but none of the so-called good guys had any interest in solving the case. And if they had, a simple thing for the cops, and when you speak to the cop I know or other cops, they would tell you one of the first things that a seasoned detective would have said, well, who the hell's plowing the streets? What did he see? This is
Right.
detective 101. They
Right.
didn't want to do it.
They didn't
Okay.
want to know.
And when you heard Proctor's statement that Lally was using to try to, impeach Lucky, the only impression that I got was, how many of these jurors are assuming that Proctor deliberately falsified that report specifically to conceal what he was being told, especially given the timing of his first interview with him? They only got to him when they realized that he was being publicized by Turtle Boy and others, and he became a big deal. Only then did they seek him out. And then the report doesn't, I mean, it's like what Lucky claims he was saying and what Proctor claims he was saying are not even the same conversation.
I'll believe Lucky over
And he,
Proctor every day
I-
of the week, and I
Who
think
wouldn't?
most people
yeah,
will too.
Who wouldn't?
he showed he
The
was
jury especially, right?
yeah, he showed he was an objective witness too, because he made the comment that, oh, I saw a Ford Edge, there was a parking ban. I didn't bother calling it in because I knew them, and I did it kind of as a friend thing or a favor thing, which showed that he was objective, which means that basically, if he says he didn't see a body at a certain time, then there was no body, and the guy's telling the truth. So,
Yeah, no, I mean,
yeah,
I thought he was just devastating
yeah,
for, and as we talked about previously, I thought he was a perfect first witness for them, because he plants that seed. And then when you get, by the time you get to the ARCA guys, I mean, now you're just literally, the horse is dead on the ground dying, and you're just whacking it for the sake of whacking it.
right.
I mean, it is just piling on, but they need to do it.
Yep.
So I got a message from John, who's in Canton and knows Lucky and is big into this case. He said, I'm sitting here in my hot tub watching. Don't forget, you could see Lucky's truck go by on the dash cam footage. He did
Yeah.
not lie about seeing the emergency vehicles. I would also note, too, this is a good comment right here that just came in. He said, I figured out the reason for the lie about Higgins' Jeep parking position. They only included that after finding out about Lucky's account. It's very interesting, isn't it?
I think that's a
Yeah.
very, very good point. And one of the things I think a lot of people, myself included, have kind of struggled over is, what's the deal with the Jeep? It doesn't make a lot of sense. And I guess what they did was, they knew they had to put the Jeep in there, but they just moved it. They moved it away from the flagpole and put it near the mailbox. But in doing that, it kind of made the whole Karen Reed slammed into reverse. I mean, it's hard to fix all the problems. I mean, so they're just kind of like plugging the dam, like, you know, where there's like multiple holes and not enough fingers and they're moving around. So that, you know, you try to plug that problem, get them away from the flagpole and make Lucky look unreliable.
Right.
But now you're right where, you know, O'Keefe should have been, if you believe what Karen was doing, and which of course doesn't make any sense because he ends up by the flagpole. I mean, this is, none of this makes any sense.
Nope.
Let's be honest.
Yep.
It's a couple questions. Don't some states allow the jury to ask questions during the trial?
You know, it was a thing almost in New York. It was considered. I know that. Ultimately, you know, it just, people are too nervous, and it's probably born out of judicial and lawyer arrogance to say we can't let the dopes ask questions. I'm being honest. I'm sure that's why it was never allowed. And then there are concerns of what if they try to ask a question that is improper for whether evidentiary rules or just doesn't make sense. And what do we do then? We don't want to offend the jury. So
it seems complicated.
It seems to me too complicated to allow. On the other hand, you know, if it's a proper question and the jury wants to know, I mean, you want them to have an answer. But I think the policy is it's too risky. So it's just not a good idea.
What do you expect in closing? Like, what can the attorney say and not say? Will the attorney be able to use visual aids? Can jurors take notes?
Well, no notes, because it's not evidence. So, you know, anything that's said in opening and closing is not evidence. It's just an argument encouraging you to apply various inferences and make logical conclusions, which is not what you're supposed to write down. So no notebooks. Visual aids, certainly anything in evidence can be used. You can use what's called demonstrative evidence if you get court approval, and you know that's something that has to be hammered out in advance. You know, I'm sure like some of this microdots stuff the defense would want to use. I don't think they'll be allowed to, because the DA would argue, how do you know that's accurate and all of that. But certainly anything that's been introduced in evidence you can use. But if the parties create like PowerPoints that don't abuse the evidence, so if the defense, for example, has a timeline based on witness testimony, and according to McCabe, this time was this, but then according to what we saw the other day, Karen Reed's hitting O'Keefe's Wi-Fi 9 minutes earlier. Could they put that on a board? Probably. You'd have to get permission, but that's just taking stuff that's in evidence. You're not creating anything. So probably. As far as, to me, the most fascinating thing, even though it's going to be boring, is how does Lally do this? How does he get up with a straight face and say, here's why there's no reasonable doubt, especially given his huge disadvantage that the jury hates him? They know he tried to, sneak in an improper video that he was not honest about. They know that. They know that he tried to beat up a 70-year-old, really distinguished doctor over nonsense. They know that he was a little aggressive with Lucky, although I don't think he was out of bounds. I just think it was more stupid than anything else. But why would they trust him? What has he done to say to the jury that I'm a good guy, trust me? I mean, they saw what he did with Proctor. So he is boring, So if you're a juror and you say, oh God, here it comes, I mean, you're just kind of cringing. And then when Jackson gets up there, they're all going to be leaning forward in their chairs with a rapt attention, just eating it up. I mean, the difference in talent levels here is striking. And I mean, a jury is aware of that, but it's not just the talent level. It's somebody has a good argument and somebody seems to be flailing. And you heard a little preview the other day. We have a strong case when he was trying to defeat the motion because, Jennifer McCabe's a good witness.
Lost Mike.
Oh, we lost him.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be back. He must have just hit the X button.
But we can handle this. Like,
Yeah, we got it. We got it.
it's like the two monkeys are in charge, like spinning in the chairs, and
That's it. Yeah.
while the adults away, like just push every button. But no, the point is, he has no evidence to argue with. What is he going to say? McCabe is a credible witness, and the defense promised you a third party culprit, and they don't have it. But how are they going to explain the phone calls, the butt dials?
Right. Right.
Karen Reed not being there at 12:36 when McCabe says, I saw her outside, the three kids outside, the lucky that, I mean, I don't even know how you begin as a prosecutor to say, let me make an outline for how I'm going to do this. I mean, it's just kind of like, okay, I'm going to go do something else. I'll get to this. Come back.
Right.
I'm going to go watch TV. I mean, how do you even get the strength to humiliate yourself in this? Because it's going to be humiliating. You're back.
Yeah, I may have to step out. The dog's acting up again. I just checked to see if my partner was home because I thought that was the reason. I think they may have to go out. He's an elderly dog. But I got a couple more questions, and then if I do step out, I'm gonna have Mazza take over on the questions.
Okay. Oh, there we go. There we go.
All right. So
you got it.
Because we got a bunch of.
I'm sorry that your dog is causing you distress.
Yeah,
Mike.
it's. I just want to make sure they're comfortable. They're an older dog visiting,
Right.
and they're looking for their mama. Here's one. I wonder if anyone researched what John O'Keefe's body temperature would be depending on how long he'd been out there. There were also some other questions asking about
Good
why he
question.
didn't have frostbite.
I don't know. I mean, maybe their medical person will be asked that, what they might expect. I mean, I think it's maybe on the one hand telling that Lally didn't ask, because those are questions you'd think he'd want to eliminate. On the other hand, if I'm the defense, I can understand them not asking because I don't know what kind of answer I'm going to get. And if I know I'm going to get the answer I want from my expert, then they're disciplined. They don't just throw questions out. I mean, there was something, I was driving, so I couldn't take notes. There was something Lally did. I think it was with Dr. Russell, I think, where he threw something out there and he just got swatted. And I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but it was just a random hope and a prayer type question. And he just got destroyed on it. It'll come to me in a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if, assuming it's the answer they want, that they would ask their own expert that.
There's another question about the experts, I think I might come from the experts answer this question, but Bob says Jackson said they had someone to testify to a fight in the house. How come they aren't testifying? We don't know. I mean, right? We haven't seen all the witnesses. Yeah. Maybe it's that medical doctor, right?
Well, I mean, I guess in that case, it would be interpreting what he said, meaning the lawyer. I mean, the doctor is not going to say, there was a fight in the house. How could he? But I would assume that their doctor is going to say that John O'Keefe's injuries have all the telltale signs of getting beat up in a fight. So now, does that mean it was in the house? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe the body temperature thing, to what the last question was, maybe the temperature suggests that he was inside longer. Maybe he was inside the Fort Edge for a period of time. I don't know. Maybe they were going to throw him outside when they saw Lucky was coming and put him right in the path. I don't know. But they're not going to have an eyewitness at this point who's going to say, I knew what happened in the house. I mean, that seems obvious.
Yeah. Super chat here from Starman72. He asks, the timing discrepancy wasn't claimed to be in Proctor's report. It was claimed to be the report of the feds.
The timing discrepancy of what?
In Proctor's report. I'm not sure. I know that some of the time was off there, like 3 minutes were off or something like that.
I think Guarino used like the Waze on John O'Keefe's phone. And what Green said was that, it's like one of the clocks they use to give you, data in the phone, that the Waze one was 3 minutes off. Scientifically, I don't know what that means. I was driving and couldn't really follow it. But again, from a juror standpoint, can you imagine if they think there's reason to believe that Guarino's analysis was off 3 minutes, and all of a sudden his claim that it was the hills during the drive made his staircases go up and down. Well, 3 minutes later, if he's at 34 Fairview, that seems pretty important.
Melanie Hideki asks, will they call the tow truck driver after this? I mean, they've already kind of announced that they're going to call those 6 people, right?
I guess based on
Yeah.
what they're saying, no. I
Mhm.
will confess to you, that's a little surprising to me
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
I mean, if he just is another one to say, look, I checked the car for damage and it's not, and then you show him the picture of what Proctor found and he says, that's not what I saw. To me, that's worth the 20 to 30 minutes of testimony. But, these guys clearly know what they're doing. They're making a call to really streamline it. But, we can all agree to disagree on certain things. That would be one, I think, that for me would be a must call because that could further annihilate Proctor.
Mhm.
And if you annihilate Proctor, then you annihilate the taillight breaking. End of
Right.
story. So
Exactly. And I think that footage of the taillight being when the vehicle was being towed from Dighton was very damning to Proctor and the state police and Sallyport and every cop in Canton that was involved in the Sally Hook,
yeah.
Sallyport rather, that because the taillight was mostly intact. It was on, for goodness sake. So,
Yeah.
that.
I understand. I agree. And I understand what you're saying. And maybe what they're thinking is how
Mm.
many witnesses do you need? I mean, you don't want to do what Lally did, which is call 7 witnesses to say, there was a bar, there was a band in the bar, and we did. I mean, that's too much. But if you have the Dighton cop, the video that you just referenced, and then you have the tow truck guy to say, what Proctor is saying about the taillight, I don't think that that's cumulative. I don't think it's repetitive. I think it's devastating.
Yeah.
But maybe they don't know where he is. Maybe there could be so much going on behind the scenes that you're just not aware of.
Yeah.
But I would call the tow truck guy. If it were me, I would definitely
Yeah.
do that.
I know David Yannetti said, leaving court yesterday, and Turtle Boy had caught this, that they're only going to call 3 more witnesses, the 2 ARCA, and why am I forgetting the third one right now?
Medical examiner.
Medical examiner. Yep, that's right. Yep.
Awesome. I'm back.
All right, welcome back.
Dog had to go pee pee.
All right. Well,
nature calls.
We got a bunch of other questions. I'm not sure if I see that you've asked some of them. I think
Yep.
Mazza.
Yep,
Here's
there's 2 of
one
them.
about the jury members. If they all think not guilty, do they have to deliberate, or can they just go to a vote right away?
I guess I would rephrase the question. I mean, they're not supposed to have any opinion before they start deliberating. What I would just change it slightly and say, if at the beginning of the deliberation they decide, and some juries do this, show of hands, and 12 hands say, then, do they have to? No. But I think they would be embarrassed if they don't at least, play games and read the paper and order lunch and do something to at least give the appearance of something. But I think even if they start 12-0 guilty, which I'm not saying they literally would, maybe it's like 10-2, I'm not sure, or whatever. But even if it was overwhelming guilt, you have to think there's somebody in there who at a minimum is going to say, we need to be fair to the process and let's at least hash out, even if we all think there's guilty, does everybody have one point they think that theoretically could show she's guilty? And then you discuss it and then you beat it down and talk about reasonable doubt. If these are honest people, I don't think that they're going to literally just do that. Now, they are more inclined to do that if it's 12-0 in favor of the defendant. I mean, if it was 12-0 for conviction in a case, I would certainly hope that there's somebody who's going to say, are we not at least going to give this defendant a college try to at least have us discuss, even if we think he did it and is proven guilty? So I don't know that it would go exactly like that, but I don't think it's going to be a particularly long deliberation. I don't think this is very complicated although it's a complicated case, the reasonable doubt is not complicated at all.
Right.
In my view.
Yeah, I agree. That's been more than established, and there's more than one or more than
over and
single
over.
instances where you can just pick either one of those single instances. And I've always said probably 30 instances you can just pick, and either one of them is reasonable doubt alone.
And you haven't even heard, ironically, as bad as it is now, the single most strongest evidence of reasonable doubt, two witnesses have not even testified yet. I mean, they are going to be, I imagine, just brutal, like you've never seen in a courtroom for the prosecution. I assume the medical examiner is going to be bad. And if that's not bad enough, by the time you have a master trial lawyer take 8 weeks of loose threads and knit a nice flag out of those loose threads, when he's done knitting, the flag is going to say reasonable doubt. I mean,
Right.
there's so many angles here, and a skilled lawyer puts it all together. I don't think it's going to take that long, but ultimately you don't know what a jury's going to do, but I just can't fathom that this would take long.
We have a couple questions about what the defense didn't do. One of them is about the taillight. Why did they didn't magnify the taillight pictures? Another one's about Jen McCabe's health data. Why did they didn't go over that with the forensic expert Richard Green? And what do you think on those? Like, there's a lot of things you could say like that they didn't go over. What would your kind of general thinking be?
I did see the thing online, or somebody posted the records where her heart rate seems to spike up during the stressful time. She appeared to be making steps at times she should have been in bed. As a Monday morning quarterback, as we're sitting here, like the guys from the Muppets critiquing everything. I mean, that's probably worth a few questions, but I don't know how compelling it really was. I don't know if Green was, solid on that. I don't know. I mean, it does sound like the thing that was worth a few minutes, but it's certainly not real high in the totem pole either.
And what do you think about the tail light not being magnified?
The taillight not being magnified?
Yeah, that's talking about some pic. Well, I'll put it up here. Hold on one second. Where did it go? There's one about it. I magnify the taillight in the Ring video. So he's talking about the Ring video.
They're probably going to do it in summation. They have the video, and then they you see them during the trial blow it up. I mean, I certainly think they're going to note that the taillight does not appear like Proctor claims the picture appears when he found it, even though that picture was taken days later. So I think they kind of will do that in some way.
I think this is Swiss francs. I think we determined that the other night. The DKK. I'm not sure. Maybe, or maybe it's Dutch francs. I don't know. But he said this B&A Cop. I got it must be Dutch. Copenhagen Mansion. Yeah, Copenhagen. Thank you for saying that right. Guys come in. Everybody knows Karen did it. She didn't take her shoes off when she walked into John's house. Case closed.
How stupid is that? That was another like classic Lally thing.
Yeah.
Just petty.
Another nice contribution. Thank you, Carrie. $50. Big.
By the way, just real quick on the shoes, it's the exact opposite. If this was some contrived, cold bitch like they're portraying her, then she would have taken her shoes off because she wouldn't have cared. She was faking her whatever, I think. But for her to go in and, dirty up the floor with, snow and whatever, I think fits more of a narrative of an excited, distressed woman who
out of her mind
can't find her boyfriend, even though they were arguing with this and that. And it's all these hours later, and where is he? So that's just another, to me, leading with your chin and being stupid.
Yeah. And all of Karen's actions and behaviors and reactions that morning are all consistent with someone who, here it comes, didn't kill John O'Keefe. It's just, I mean, even when she finds out that he's passed away outside of the 34 February, of what happened, I should say, her reaction is completely organic and exactly in line with what I would have expected out of anyone who found out the news that they just found out. Had she done it, it would have been maybe more like a robotic, oh, this happened, but hers was 100% accurate. She's
Yeah.
100% authentic and 100% innocent.
She was worried about those kids too.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
was authentic too. They
Yeah.
it's funny how the trolls want to twist that.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone tried to say she was winking at the jury yesterday, which wasn't true at
Oh
all.
my God, that
Eliza
was
looked
the
right at her
lawyer.
and she winked
Oh
at
my
Eliza.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, Liza Little.
Yep.
She was
It's
winking
been
at.
awesome.
That
Yeah.
was just, but these people, what they
They're
do is,
flyers.
I mean, look at the ones today. I have a new friend who's, the wino
Oh, true crime wino.
whatever,
True crime
Oh, yeah.
wino.
brags about being a wino. So why am
Yeah.
I? She kept attacking me for being a real estate lawyer,
Yeah.
and then one of her dummy friends was like, "Look at this idiot! He's a real estate." Like they just don't do anything. They just follow each other. And I mean, I've been called a lot of things, some not all good in my life. Real estate lawyer is not one of them.
She got you confused with Brian Barea, and he's also not a real estate lawyer. He's an estate attorney.
What?
So it's pretty funny. They got it wrong like 3 different ways. It was
they're
just so funny.
obsessed with the word grifter, and they
Yeah.
don't
Oh,
know what
yeah,
it
yeah.
means. And it's just hilarious. I
Nope.
don't even know.
You're not accepting any money. I mean, if they
No.
want to call me a grifter because I'm collecting money on my show, that's okay. I don't really give a shit.
It's just,
But for you, it's pretty. You're doing a public service 100%. Carrie says Lucky exemplifies honesty and credibility, and you know what? They're attacking.
it
Lucky.
came off.
I mean, this is a guy. He's got nothing to gain here. He just did the honest truth.
Yep.
He had a friendship with some of the Alberts. It's obvious. You could look through
And a
his
lot
old
to
Facebook
lose.
posts. Yeah.
It's to the contrary. I mean, this guy
Oh.
lives his entire life in Canton, in the realm of the Alberts. So, the Alberts of Canton, they're like this semi, royal family of this just screwed up town is what it sounds like anyway.
Yeah.
And this guy spends his whole life there, knows these people his whole life, and now has to, go hang out at the waterfall. And I mean, honestly, it's a brave thing. I mean,
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
it's shocking, but he came off like Forrest Gump. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Do you think the defense knows who did it? I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, look, they were very well, let's back up on that. Do they actually know? I don't know, but they seem to have made a command decision to blame Colin and Brian Albert for the physical component of this and not Higgins. And I'm not sure why. In other words, I mean, I know Colin's like a tough kid and a punk and a liar, and Brian Albert's a tough guy, and Higgins is maybe, I'm not sure what Higgins is actually, but it is interesting how they really have focused on the uncle and nephew and not Higgins in terms of the actual violence.
Yep.
So do they know something? I don't know, but those are the two they've pinpointed, and those are the two that, at least when she got arrested the second time, and Lally thought it was a good idea to play that video and have her months before, the theories were public, say it's a sick joke or whatever it was about Colin. And then Yuri, the diligent public servant, concerned about her rights, gave her some quality advice to, man, stop talking. Meanwhile, he's like, texting about a balloon knot. I mean, these people are just pathetic.
Terrible.
I don't know, but they do seem to have focused on two specific people in the house. And is there a reason for that? I don't know.
A comment. Do you think it's a problem for the defense that John O'Keefe's cell phone didn't move after 12:30ish? Would Celebrate data show if he put it in airplane mode?
Well, if he put it, again, none of us are cell phone experts, but if you put it in airplane mode, presumably there'd be no records after. I mean, there could be no text messages, right? There could be no whatever. I mean, do they just pile up? And then when they finally go through, does it show that they were held and then delivered? I don't know. But I'm not sure why it would. be a problem that his phone didn't move after 12:30. But is that accurate?
It's somewhat accurate, but there's also the point that she was home. She was back at his house before 12:30. So
That's right. That's right.
I mean, what does that
Yeah.
even mean? I
That's
mean,
right.
how is that?
You have testimony in the 12:20s that she left.
Mm.
And in the best case scenario for the DA, I mean, best case, that she's got to be home at 12:36 when she hit the router or the Wi-Fi network over there, right? 12:36.
I thought it
So
was now earlier. Am I confused? I'm not sure.
I thought it was
You
12:36.
might
I
be
think
right.
whatever it is, but
Yeah.
if he was killed at 12:30
Yeah.
and she's home literally at 12:36, putting aside the theories that come from a attic and whatnot about she would have been so drunk and so excited that she raced home, in record time. I mean, once again, when you're speculating and you have the burden of proof, that doesn't really work. I think practically speaking, that seems not likely. And I don't think she'd be racing home because here's the other thing.
Yeah, she would have driven slower. Yeah,
Thank
than
you.
normal. Yeah,
If you did this, she's not thinking, oh, I have to get home to hit the router to show his phone stop. You would be driving, drunk or not, hands on the wheel, head forward, air conditioning blasting, music blasting, like focus, speed limit. You're doing nothing to get pulled over, on top of the fact that there's weather conditions. So you're not racing home to get home to do what?
right.
It
That's
doesn't
right.
make any sense.
No, not at all. They're saying 12:36 was the time the Wi-Fi kicked in.
It was. Okay. It was
Yeah.
12:36. Mark was right again. Always
Mhm.
right. Mark Bederow, at what point do you think the feds got involved in this case? And via, I messed that up. He said they want to know at what point. We kind of know that, but and via whom? I think that's the better question.
I don't
Like,
know. I think
how did they get involved?
Isn't there like some grant theory that Yannetti and Rachel Rollins were breaking bread, months ago, and the now disgraced U.S. attorney? I mean, this is all nonsense. The short answer is, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they got involved, why they got involved. You have to think at some point that the defense alerted them to information. That wouldn't be surprising. I mean, something had a tick. You don't know if witnesses, confidential informants told the Fed something. The bottom line is, they impaneled the grand jury, which is a serious thing. That the Feds don't just say, bring them in and throw them in the grand jury. They don't just do that. And they don't investigate homicide cases. They investigate corruption cases. So you have to think the information they got related to what was going on with the state police, the Canton police, and perhaps, the Alberts connection to them and weird things happening.
It's funny that Grant and the Kevin changed their story. It used to be Rachel Rollins and
Right.
Yannetti were friends. Then it became Karen is friends with Levy. At first, Levy was the good guy. He was gonna they said that he had closed the federal investigation, and it's funny how their stories keep changing.
God. They're
Depending on
coming
what's,
after
Yeah.
they're coming after the medical examiner now. Now
Yeah.
she's she
It's
turned
so funny.
heel, apparently.
Yeah, it's funny how their stories change. First it was Rachel, and now it's Levy. Like, who actually started? We don't know. Nobody
I
knows.
don't know.
Yeah.
They're
There's
just making it up.
There's no way to know, at least for us. I mean,
Yeah.
others might know, but I don't know.
There's a question, Mark. What would you do if a DA brought this case to you?
Well, I think if somebody brought it to you initially, you look at it, but I think it would be in pretty short order something that by looking at it, that means look at everything. I mean, how they have an official position through Tully saying that it wasn't in the least bit suspicious that he just happened to be lying on the front lawn in, street clothes with one shoe, a cocktail glass. We knew he was going over there. We knew he was invited over there, and we had no interest and didn't need to know what was going on in the house. And moreover, it wasn't suspicious or anything because, I wear shorts year round. That's pretty pathetic. So,
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, I've said this for weeks, months at this point. I never would have indicted this. So which by definition means I wouldn't have tried it. So I would have said, no, it's wrong. There's no credible evidence of her guilt. I can understand why they initially suspected her of something, but I don't know why they think that this warrants a trial and ignoring all this other evidence.
We got a question from Mazza. Have you seen this question yet, Mazza?
Oh, that
They,
one. Oh, yeah, I
they
saw that
all
one.
like
Yeah.
you. The women are loving you tonight. Is Mazza single?
They want to know the answer to that one. Yeah. Oh, geez. I don't know if I should. I should not. Didn't expect to talk about my personal life on
No
this
comment. No
stream tonight.
comments,
Yeah,
Best.
yeah.
It's funny. They all want to know. I tried,
You
ladies.
want me to answer the question, Mike? You want me to?
No,
Yeah,
no, I'm not.
okay,
Yeah, I'm
okay.
just
All right,
teasing you.
all
I
right,
just
okay.
like to. I like
He
to see
wants
you
to
blush.
answer. I think
No,
the
No,
answer
I
is
want
yes.
to see him blush.
I think the answer. Yeah,
No,
I
no,
am
he
single.
wants
Yeah,
to answer.
I've
There
been
you
single for
go.
a couple months now. So yeah. There's
So
your
let's
answer.
take that LOL off that message and,
Yeah. There you go.
now we're in
Oh, I'm
business.
leaving that one
That
up
door's
there.
gonna keep
Now
getting
you're
knocked on until it was
matchmaking.
answered. So yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Here's another one. What is the end game for the FBI?
No basis to know. The only thing I would say is you don't know what they know. And there is, I would say, as close to 0% chance without knowing the real answer that the materials they gave to the parties as part of the TUI disclosure, very, very low, almost 0% chance that that would encompass everything. Because whatever is critical right now to the real investigation, they wouldn't turn over. And they told the DA, don't do this. And they didn't do it. And the stuff that they gave them, I believe they believe that's not a very articulate way to say it. I believe the feds are comfortable handing over because it doesn't impact, what they're going to do. So, for example, the accident reconstruction people, they don't matter to the feds for the simple reason the feds don't believe it's a car accident. We're not looking at that. We know it's not. That's not going to hurt our investigation at this point of the corruption if we tell the defense and help them with that at trial. But if there are other statements or testimony or anything that could be giving away investigative leads, sources and methods, which is, what they're doing and how they do it, then they wouldn't turn that over. But they went out of their way to try to tell them in good faith, we can't let this go forward without this material, which is as close to daring the DA's office or telling them, don't do this. You're making a huge mistake. And they did it anyway. So you have to think they have a lot more that the parties don't know. Somebody's misinterpreting my Forrest Gump comment. They're saying it was rude. That's not what it was meant to be. It means he was earnest and he came off in a simple way, but that's not an insult. He came off as earnest and honest, hardworking, he was doing his civic duty in testifying.
All American. That's what
which
I
is
think
what
of.
Forrest Gump was.
Yeah,
By
Forrest
that's
Gump
not,
was like a great American.
he was just an honest, earnest guy. That's right.
Yeah.
So that was not meant to be insulting.
And I think Forrest Gump, like a lot of people, he had talents, but he also had like disabilities. So like a lot of us, you make the best of what you're dealt with. I think that's Forrest Gump, and I think that's Lucky. Actually, Lucky is like the guy is doing well. Like he's a good guy. You can see people love him. I think he does good with what he's got.
He came the first word, and I've said it 100 times. He was earnest. He takes his small role of civic responsibility seriously.
He doesn't want to hit any animals. I love that
have to
part,
tell the truth, but you know what? I don't want to really hurt my friends, but I'm called upon to testify. He appears to be, of all the witnesses in the case, one of very few who take that oath pretty seriously. So it's not insulting. It actually speaks highly of him.
Here's another comment. Will Karen Reed need to file suits immediately to preserve any evidence the Commonwealth has?
well, I mean, the DA can't like destroy the evidence, but I mean, I'm sure they will send a spoliation letter and, please take note. We intend to, file suit and da 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 da. I assume they'll file what's called a notice of claim pretty soon after the verdict, which just reserves your right to to sue them. You have to notify when you sue, a state agency or government of your intent to sue, and there's certain procedures you have to go through. And I think they would do that pretty quickly, and certainly make sure they preserve whatever evidence they have.
Another comment. Attorney on TikTok suggests that the feds would intervene if they had evidence Karen Reed was framed, but has no examples of that happening. Your thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, look, if they had literal evidence of her being framed and it was steep enough along the process where they could take action, meaning arrest someone, indict someone, then yeah, I think they would pull the plug. But federal investigations are slow as molasses. They drag, they sometimes go years. They may not be ready. Also, again, you have to consider the sources and methods. They may have evidence that somebody did something they shouldn't do, but they may be on a path to something much bigger with somebody much more important, and they don't want to tip off or blow it by making a small arrest. Now, on the other hand, you wouldn't want them to let a trial go forward if they have a strong view that it's not right, but they came as close as they could without literally doing anything about it. I mean, they gave them that disclosure. They wrote these letters back and forth with, this ridiculous Morrissey complaining, and they said piss off. I wouldn't assume just because they didn't stop the trial that there's nothing there. I think that's premature.
A lot of super chats. I couldn't get them all on the screen tonight. I tried, people. 159 of them. I want to thank you guys for being here tonight. What do you have any final thoughts? We'll go to Mazza Media first.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled for next week. I can't wait. My biggest problem for next week is just deciding if I can make it up there in time for that verdict to be read. So it's between Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm thinking it's probably when that's going to be read. So I'm trying to figure out if I can actually make it out there and all that. So I might let my boss know I might need to leave early on Tuesday, or maybe might need the day off on Wednesday, because I really, really want to be there when this is read. I want to be there for this atmosphere. I've put, as all of us have, a lot of time into this going back to last summer, and I just want to be there for the conclusion of this trial. And it's going to be something I'm actively, feverishly monitoring, and then I might have to book it to Dedham and as fast as I possibly can if I get wind that this thing might be coming down Tuesday. But I think with the Monday, obviously that's going to be the next three or final three witnesses interviewed. Tuesday is going to be closing arguments. I don't know how long that's going to last, but we could be looking at possibly a late morning or early mid-afternoon of jury deliberation beginning. How fast they determine that, I don't know. But it looks like it could be Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday at the earliest with the jury deliberating. So I'm hoping I can just get out there. I'm just hoping things, I want it to be as soon as possible just to get this over with, because Karen's been dealing with this stuff for 2.5 years now. If a kid was a freshman in high school when this case started, or a freshman in college when this case started, they'd be in the middle of their junior year right now. That's how long this has been going on since that fateful night. And Karen's factually innocent. She's been framed. It's been a total cover up. And I just can't wait for her to move on from this and move on to other things, which is basically getting herself off this hot seat, which is this trial, and then into the driver's seat, which is finding out and pushing towards suing who she must, and suing who she intends to, and her and her team doing what they need to do next on those next steps. So I'm very much looking forward to that. It's going to be a big week this week. The energy is going to be huge on Friday. I saw the videos. Everybody was pumped to the moon. I saw the amount of pizza that everybody had. Erica, and all the pizza that they had out for everybody that was out there supporting Karen outside the trial was big time. It was awesome, and I got to try to get out there at all costs. I just got to be there. I'm hoping against hope that I can make it out there and I can be there, because that place is going to be awesome. It's going to be not guilty. There's no question about it. no one should worry about this being a guilty verdict at all. There's more than enough reasonable doubt here. Obviously, the jury cannot stand Adam Lally, and their whole case is an absolute joke. So I'm extremely confident in a not guilty verdict. Karen's team has basically slapped Adam Lally from one end of the courtroom to the other. Actually, let's make it the courthouse since the courtroom is so small. And again, it's going to be a big week for Karen Reed and her defense team, for Turtle Boy, who's fought and fought and fought, for everyone who's fought and fought for Karen, for every single supporter, from Nick and Jenna Rocco to everybody out there that's done everything, for people in Canton like Rita Lombardi and Jennifer O'Donnell who have fought for their town's sanity against the people in that town that have tried to tear them down and intimidate them. It's going to be a big week, and get ready for the big excuse later this week. Once Karen's not guilty, all the trolls are going to cry and complain. Turtle Boy this, Turtle Boy tainted the jury. Oh, he did this, he did that. That's all you're going to hear later this week. They're going to cry, they're going to complain, and that's all I got to say. So free Karen Reed.
I thank you so much, Mazda Media, for being here. And you got a show tomorrow night, Sunday night, 5 or 6 p.m.
6 o'clock tomorrow night with attorney Brian Bederow on YouTube.
Follow at Mazda Media on YouTube and Twitter.
Yep.
Make sure you're following him. He's doing a lot of good shows too now.
Thank you, Mike.
And we've had so many more questions come in. This is another one. They want to know, what are the chances that the O'Keefes sue Karen Reed in civil court after she's acquitted? Could that happen?
I mean, it could, but that's kind of like an ouch lawsuit. You know, we're used to the ouch objections. That would be unfortunate. You hope at some point that the light goes on for them. They've been led down a path for a couple of years now. It's hard to get out of that. It's easy to just accept what the DA says and assume that's the truth and go with it. And I think it's a slow process for them to get over the emotional part and come to the reality part. But again, I give them a wide berth. I mean, they lost someone that they shouldn't have, and they're pissed off and upset. But I certainly hope that they would think twice before filing what would amount to be, in essence, a frivolous lawsuit that could end up costing them more because they're not going to get anything. You know, even with the lower standard of proof, what are they going to sue her for? Wrongful death? You know, she's been acquitted. There's no evidence that any of this happened. It's going to be the same evidence at a civil trial. Hopefully they wouldn't do that. I think they would just lose money. They'd get nowhere. They'd get no closure. They would get nothing except for one thing. And I don't know if they want to pay money for that, but they would get her under oath. That's what they would get, because she would have no Fifth Amendment privilege anymore, because she's going to be not guilty and can't be tried again for this offense. So a claim of the Fifth Amendment on what happened, they would argue, and they'd be correct, would be improper. You know, you're not in legal jeopardy. You can't be prosecuted twice for the same crime. So are they willing to pay money to, you know, force her to sit for a deposition? I don't know, but I wouldn't. And I certainly wouldn't advise them to do that. I think hopefully what they would do is meet with the feds, get some answers. And, you know, if I were them too, I would have a lot of questions for Michael Morrissey, which would be, what do you know here? Like, for real? Like, what's going on? What is this crap about Proctor and these texts? And when did you know? And what does it all mean? You know, these Google searches, you know, what do these people say? Who killed my brother? Who killed my son? What's going on? And I don't know what he would say. I assume he'd say, you know, Karen Reed did it, just to get them out of his office. But they could sue her. I think that would be a fool's errand, though.
And what are your final thoughts tonight about what's going to happen on Monday and Tuesday, and just what's happened?
Well, it's kind of, you know, it's good that it's ending, and you know, obviously for her, the sooner the better. I mean, if this ended 8 weeks ago, that would be better. It probably never should have happened, but she's here. So it sounds like it'll end in the next few days, which is good for her. But, you know, I've been watching all of this, and if it ends in the next few days, that's not good for me, because my never-ending trial is going to be back in full session Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So that's kind of disappointing. about that, because to not see what's happening in live time when you're getting to, I mean, I really want to see these ARCA guys. I really want to see the summations like live, not on Twitter comments.
I'm thinking on Monday or Tuesday too. Like, what time are we going to be able to do shows? Because you may not be able to see it until a lot after.
It all gets figured out.
Yeah.
And of course, this trial is never ending and gets moved
Yeah.
all the time. But that's, I don't.
Let's hope your trial gets moved.
I'm
for us, right? Right,
well.
Mazza?
It's interesting because I'm kind of torn about it because obviously from a selfish perspective, I want it moved.
Yeah.
And you just said it's in Karen Reed's interest to have it over, but it's not in my client's interest to have this nightmare that she's living go on. So she's entitled to swift justice too.
Absolutely.
And again, it's really not our choice. I mean, would never say let's move it so I can go watch another trial.
I'm hopefully going to be able to change my dentist appointment on Tuesday. That's what I just
that kind of stuff I would change for sure. But
I'm calling first thing in the morning.
But the final thought is, it's finally happening this week. It sounds like, unless something dramatic happens, unless Lally has any kind of real rebuttal case, which it feels like there's none, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't it just feel like he's checked out?
I mean, do you think he'll have that rebuttal witness too? That was another question that came in. Will he even have another rebuttal?
I don't think so. I mean, the judge, as a remedy, gave him time and suggested if you want to get one. But does that mean he's going to do it? I mean, is he going to call a doctor to say those aren't dog bites? Maybe, but he's already got his own ME saying it was. He's already got defense experts saying it appears like it definitely was, or stronger than the ME. If he had a real doctor who knew they weren't dog bites, why didn't he do that in his direct? I mean, he went out of his way to call the DNA person, right?
Yeah.
He went out of his way to try to humiliate Dr. Russell by saying, are you aware that there is no canine DNA? And this is just another example of, but it all goes back to Proctor. If you remember the DNA stuff, it relies on Proctor's honesty and integrity in whether he swabbed the right sample.
Yep.
The people who tested it have no idea what they were actually testing. I mean, he could have swabbed the dirt, next to the pigsty. Who knows?
Yeah,
but
maybe it was his bacon, egg, and cheese since it came up as
who
pig.
knows? I mean, who knows? So, is he really going to call a rebuttal expert? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Are you going to rebut Lucky with Proctor and Yuri?
No,
I wouldn't do that. Are you going to rebut, the defense medical examiner? I don't think so. Your own medical examiner destroyed you. He's not calling Trooper Paul to rebut anything the ARCA people say. So even if he wanted to rebut, the options are very small. There's only so few witnesses. So I don't know. I don't think he's going to have much, if any. What, if any, rebuttal case will he have?
Yeah.
As far as,
interested to see.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, it sounds like it's coming to an end, which is good. But the story's not going to end because they're going to keep it alive. The feds are probably going to do something at some point, whatever that results in. There's going to be civil lawsuits. As you said, there's going to be problems with the state police, including specific troopers. There's a crisis in the Norfolk DA's office. So I don't think this is going to go away anytime soon. But I can't wait to hear what her and her lawyers have to say when it's over, because when the gloves come off and it's, ungloved, say whatever you want, it's going to be ugly.
I'd ask you both of that last question tonight. Do you think that the DA, Michael Morrissey, I think he's got like 2 years, I think, left in his term. He's got some time left in his term. Do you think he will be forced to resign? Do you think the outcry will be so much? There's any chance that he will actually be forced to resign from his position? Never mind not run for re-election. I don't expect he'll run for re-election now. I think he'll take this as his retirement moment. But what do you think? Will he be forced?
Oh, you're silent.
Am I silent?
No, no,
Oh,
not you.
Mazza. Oh, Mazza
Yeah.
is
no.
this time.
Yeah, he should get the step in and get out of there. Just I mean, I don't know if they'll be able to force him out. I don't know how that whole process works, but he should just get on and move on. This has been an ugly, especially for the district attorney's office. This has been an absolute the fact that they've had state police do what they've done and all this stuff and the way they've backed it up and supported, this basically a sham this entire time. It just needs to be, just get out of there, man. Retire or do something. Resign. I don't know. Just get out of there. Just no one. Just go
I
away.
think it depends, and not to get all Nixonian and 1970s Watergate history,
Mhm.
but I think it comes down to what did he know and when did he know it? And if it comes back to him about knowing about a lot of this crap and allowing this to go forward, then yeah, I think he'll be forced out. If it turns out that he's just an inept, bureaucratic, lazy hack, then I would say, yeah, what's your point? It's just another day that ends in Y. Who cares? Vote the bums out if that's what you want to do, because that's how it is in Massachusetts, and that's certainly how it's been over there for some time. But if it's worse, I mean, if he knew what was going on, stuff about the press conference, did he lie? Did he know about these text messages? Did he have questions internally about the tail light, and did he allow it to go forward anyway? And I think what you're going to find, the risk for him too is going to be, there's got to be good people in that office, right? Some of them who are probably humiliated, embarrassed, their reputations and credibility suffer because the entity is under attack. And you have to wonder, are there whistleblowers in there? Are there confidential informants in there? I don't mean FBI necessarily. I mean leaking. Okay. Is somebody in the Norfolk DA going to pick up the phone and call Howie Carr, who's been just killing them every day, and say, I got something good for you here? You wouldn't believe that. I mean, who knows? If that kind of stuff happens, this kind of happened in Brooklyn with, I keep using Brooklyn with Charles Hines. He was like Morrissey. He just doubled down and said, I'm just going to run. And he ran, he's like DA for life. And in the last time when he ran, he got bruised and battered by all of this. And what should have been your typical New York City corrupt election where, they win with 98% of the vote and that kind of thing, he got buried. He lost. And then the feds investigated him and they never indicted him, but they destroyed him. And the pleasure I got out of that personally was they had a bunch of his emails and stuff. And he was talking about two of my cases and how they were going to hurt him politically. One of which was the one we talked about last week with
How good did that feel to see those emails?
It felt good.
Yeah, yeah. I would feel so proud of that if that was anything I ever did.
But because Hines was a hack.
Yeah.
He was just the worst lazy hack. And he started out as an idealist and he just got
what were those two cases? Like, what were the two cases about that you were?
One of them was the one that was on 2020 that we talked about.
Yeah.
I didn't even tell you the real corrupt part of that case that was interesting. One of the witnesses in that case who lied at trial was actually the daughter of a close personal friend of the DA.
Wow.
Who went to law school and ended up getting hired by the Brooklyn DA's office at a law school, even though she was a lying witness in this case, and worked in the office for which she was a witness in a murder case who lied. And Hines hired her, and her father donated money to him. And as a favor, he hired her. It's so corrupt. That was one of them.
That sounds familiar. That sounds like Massachusetts.
Look it up. And again,
Yeah.
I'm not going to name her. But if you look it up, it's all there. And there was a big story about that. And the person running against him was campaigning on that as corruption. And another one you could look up is a guy named Ronald Bozeman, who was actually innocent and who was indicted for a robbery. And they suppressed all kinds of Brady material. He stayed in prison for a year, even though he was innocent. He sued them. And there was a cover cover story in the Village Voice, if you remember the Village Voice.
Oh yeah, I love it.
And the article was called "Brooklyn Needs a New DA." And it was about Heinz corruption. And the reporter who wrote the story is a New York legend for like muckraking police reporting. A
What's
guy
the
named
name? What's the name? You know?
Graham Raymond. Look him up, Graham Raymond. Really good police reporter. And he wrote the story, and he was using several cases, and he used Bozeman as the lead, and it was the main part of this huge article. And and Heinz was going nuts about, what are we doing about this? What are we doing? And how are you going to prep me for my debate to answer this? And all those emails came out about him panicking about those two cases.
Phenomenal.
But ultimately, he was voted out, even though he was under attack. So to me, the real question with Morrissey is, do they literally have something where he knew something and did something?
We shall see. It's going to be interesting. I had another question that keeps coming up in the super chats that I didn't ask the last few shows. I want to ask you quickly and let you go. New York, there's this Long Island serial killer thing going on. Are you familiar with that? Do you have any comments on any of it?
Yeah. I mean, they call them the Gilgo Beach murders. Everyone has been aware of, very sad situation where in the early 2000s, several prostitutes were found dead out in kind of a marshy area of, Gilgo Beach out there. Went nowhere for a long time. The DA out there was a guy named Spoda, who had, the police chief out there and a lead prosecutor who were accused of doing nothing on the case. So the ex-DA Spoda today is in federal prison for corruption. His lead ADA is in prison for federal corruption. And the police chief was incarcerated and was ultimately, did his time and got out for something else related to physically assaulting a prisoner who was making fun of him for having male sex toys in his car or something. And he was embarrassed, and he gave him a beating. So this case went nowhere. Yes, Shannon Gilbert is one of the murder victims. And there was a new sheriff in town who hired a new police chief and committed to reinvestigating the case. And they did. And they bagged this guy. They followed him around. The guy's an architect in Manhattan. It's kind of crazy. He lives on Long Island. And they got him by following him and seeing him discard pizza. And they got his DNA on a chewed piece of pizza crust from his garbage outside his lower Manhattan office. His DNA came back. They tore up his house. What they never did to the Albert. I mean, tore it up. I mean, took out the bulldozers. They found his torture room in the house, padded walls, soundproof, indicted him for a bunch of murders. They went back months later, dug up the house again. He just got indicted for another round of murders. And it's pretty screwed up.
Something that we could, because people want to make sure they want to keep the 3Ms going. And maybe we could get into the Long Island serial killer coverage. This might be it.
I'll start studying up on it.
I mean, the problem with the Long Island thing is, I mean, it's an interesting case, but there's not much like
this.
I mean, let's give him his due process and all that, but let's be honest, he appears to be as open and shut. Now, again, he needs his right to his trial and all that, and he, due process, but the case appears to be, not interesting in a legal sense. It's very interesting factually, and it's disturbing and disgusting for sure. But that's a possibility. There's other good ones going on.
Let me know, especially your cases too. If you ever want to talk about it, I love talking to you. You're great. Yeah.
The one we talked about last week, I think people would find fascinating. I mean, I could go on for hours, but you add in the fact that they hired witnesses or a witness who was completely dishonest in the trial, still a practicing attorney today is, great. Not in that office, but there's so much awful stuff that surrounds that case. That might be a good one.
Awesome. I can't wait to see what happens with this court case that we're following right now, and we'll see what happens in the future. I want to thank you guys both for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Huge
Thank
shout
you.
out. Baza Media, make sure you follow him. He's got a show tomorrow, 6 p.m. I think you're going to be back here with me tomorrow night, too, afterwards.
You got it. You got it. You
Awesome.
bet. Absolutely.
And Attorney Bederow, thank you so much for being here again, always.
Thank you.
Good luck in
Appreciate
court this week.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
good luck, Mark.
Appreciate it.
And I'm going to read off some super chats and all that. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Good night, Mazza. Love you. My name is Mike Crawford. A lot of super chats coming in. I can't keep up with them all. My girlfriend just came in too. The dog is finally quiet. Love it. I'm just going to try to, get them all up there if I can. We also had some Venmos come in. Just looking at there's been so many super chats that came in tonight. 168. I want to just make sure that you're aware there's a Canton Select Board meeting this coming Tuesday at 7 p.m. Anyone can show up to it. If you want to support the women of Canton, definitely show up. Their police chief, Helena Rafferty, her contract is up. It's rumored they're going to give her another 1-year extension. A lot of the citizens don't like it. It should be an interesting Canton Select Board meeting on Tuesday night. So if you want to show up and support them, definitely do so. I'm going to post a couple more super chats tonight. It's been a lot of super chats coming in. It's hard to keep up with them all. I'm sorry if I didn't get to post yours. I'm sorry I didn't post as many regular comments too, because there's just so many comments coming through these shows lately. It's hard to even keep up with them. Thank everyone who's been gifting memberships to other people in the community. I want to thank MJ, Jennifer, Stephanie for being our moderators in the chat. They run a good chat over there. I got to look at my Venmo contributions real quick too. I did see some Venmos coming in tonight. We're also doing this fundraiser. You can see it at the bottom. Support Janelle. She's the dispatcher that was arrested. She's been charged. She lost her job for revealing information about license plates that helped in the Karen Reed case. She's still facing some charges. Definitely could use financial support. If you want to support Janelle Webb, it's at Z Dispatcher on Venmo. There's also the Karen Reed Defense Fund, freekarenreed.net. Please, consider matching what I put down, which was $20 to each one. If you could match that, that would be great. We're doing a little raffle as well. I got one double XL Young Jerks black t-shirt left, yellow lettering, black t-shirt, double XL. There's only one of them left. If you give to each one and you send me a message at mjcboston1@yahoo.com and let me know with a screenshot, you're entered the raffle. If you just do one, you get one entry. If you do it to both, you get 2 entries. Thank you so much I know a bunch of you have already contributed to that tonight. Thank you so much. All right, let me just read off the Venmos real quickly here. Kathy, I think she's my hot friend. She said $20 tonight. She said, it's been a long trial. You have done a hell of a job keeping us updated, Mike. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kathy. Lisa also sent $5 tonight. She said, hi, Mike. Another great show tonight. As I said before, Mazza, attorney Mark Bederow, rock. After Karen is exonerated, I hope you guys look into the case of Sandra Birchmore. Free Karen Reed from Lisa. Yes, absolutely. We had Mizzy on last night talking about Sandra Birchmore. I'm definitely going to continue coverage of Sandra Birchmore on here. Definitely. $20 came in from Thea. Kate and T want to have a white Mai Tais with Bederow at Kowloon. Oh, wow. So Kate and T want to have some white Mai Tais with Bederow at Kowloon. I hope I'm invited to that as well. I wouldn't mind getting some chicken fingers and maybe a Mai Tai. Barbara also sent a gift of $20. Thank you so much, Barbara. Mark Fisher said $25. His comment was Bederow. Thank you so much, Mark. Deidre sent $10. She says free Karen Reed. Thank you so much, Deidre. All right. I think that's it. Oh, no, I had one more. Allie sent $7. She says Dr. Russell's Vardir. I can never say that. She told Allie that her sub to the Globe was for 6 months to 1 year. Then during Cross, Lally tried claiming she said 18 months. Was that purposely done by Lally in an effort to make her look not credible? Is that a common tactic by lawyers? Seems unethical. We did talk about that tonight. It's just not unethical. It's just dumb. It's just shady. It's ridiculous. It was stupid. It shows you how petty he is. All right. Deborah also sent $20 late last night. She said, great show last night. I can't find Mizzy on YouTube. Please share. I did send her the link. If you want to find any of the links to the shows that we had on last night, you can definitely check in the YouTube. It is there now listed. Alice also sent some money last night. She said, let's effing go. All right. I think that's it. Let me just check the Cash App. You guys are still super chatting me. Thank you so much for all the super chats tonight. Crazy amount. Just had another super chat from Leah M. She sent $20. She said, for Karen Reed, 20 for 20. Thanks, Mike. You're not supposed to send it to me, though. You're supposed to send it. You know what? I'll just make another contribution. You got me for another. You were supposed to send it to freekarenreed.net, but I appreciate it, Leah. And I will actually, you know what? I'm just going to make another contribution to Karen Reed tonight. Kevin sent $5. He says Kowloon is the old British owned side of Hong Kong. Interesting. Didn't know that. Thank you, Kevin. All right. That's the Cash App. Thank you so much, everyone. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m., I'm going to be live with Jessica Machado. She's a journalist that has been in court watching the jury. So she's going to have some thoughts tomorrow night on the show at 7 p.m. about the jury. And then later on, I'm going to have Mazza on the show and some other surprise guests. So check it out tomorrow night, 7 p.m. We're going to be back on this. I'll see everyone real soon tomorrow night. I can't wait. And I'm not sure about I am not sure about this week in court. I'm going to try to get there. We'll see. I might actually be there Monday or Tuesday. I'm not sure. And Janelle is correcting me. I was actually wondering about that. I thought I did misspeak. Janelle says, yes, she was not arrested. So I did misspeak. Janelle wasn't actually arrested, but she needs an attorney, and she's facing some serious shit. So let's support Janelle Webb. Sorry, Janelle, if I got that wrong. Yeah, someone else said that. Janelle was not arrested. I did misspeak. It happens sometimes. I kind of knew I most misspoke when I said that too. Sometimes you say the wrong things. So we got that corrected. I'm glad. I like to be corrected. I like to make sure our facts are correct. Thank you so much for the corrections. But definitely do support Janelle. You can see it on the ticker, Z Dispatcher on Venmo, freekarenreed.net. And if you want to be in the raffle tonight on that, mjcboston1@yahoo.com, or you can hit me up on Twitter or Facebook at The Young Jerks. Send your screenshots. Thank you so much, everyone who's been listening, supporting, watching, sharing. I love that a lot of the families watch it together. I'm getting family members that I never knew would ever watch my show, letting me know that they even watch my show now. It's pretty wild. Thank you, Miss Shorty, too. And I want to thank the guests from last night. We had some great guests last night. I want to thank Miss Shorty and Bianca, both who were guests last night. They're buying memberships for us. Bianca MMM. It's like the triple M's, right? That we have here. Bianca MMM. Definitely follow on YouTube. It's Miss Shorty on YouTube. Follow both of them on YouTube. They both do great content. I want to thank you so much, everyone who's been a part of this, part of the ride, whether you're a listener, a supporter, someone who's been showing up at the meetings. I love it all. I guess Turtle Boy's going to be on at 9. I'll be watching that. Have a great night, everyone. See you tomorrow night.